If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Before we get started with today's video, I have an announcement to make. After years of telling other people's stories, I finally released one of my own. My novel Eternal Reign is available now in both ebook and paperback format for those of you who are like me and prefer to collect physical media. You can grab a copy right now on Amazon through the link in the description of this video. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. When you make it to the Republic fleet, Jedi Master Seo has booked you passage to Coruscant on the luxury Republic transport, the Assailles. The ship is nice, but it does travel through some dangerous parts of space, so there's always a chance that something could go wrong, which is why there are quite a few soldiers and security droids on board just in case. The ride starts off smoothly, but after a while, one of the passengers gets worried because she's heard that an Imperial warship is following you, and none of the crew have debunked the rumor, which makes it seem very true. Even though there's technically a peace treaty between the Empire and the Republic, it wouldn't surprise anyone if the Empire broke it, which they do right in the middle of your conversation by shooting the ship. With you being a Jedi, you head to the bridge to find out exactly how the crew is going to respond to the attack and what exactly you can do to help. The bridge took heavy fire, and unfortunately for everyone on board, the captain died, leaving his first officer Haken in charge. The guy is not exactly trained to handle high-stress situations, which makes me wonder why he was second in charge in the first place. The Empire took out the ship's guns, shields, and long-range communication systems, so you can't fight back or call for help. Haken thinks you're all dead, especially since the ship that's attacking you is one of the biggest in the Imperial fleet. Things get even more tense when the man in charge of the Imperial ship calls you with demands. He's Grand Moff Kilrin, and he attacked your ship because he's carrying an anti-Imperial terrorist named Venusaura, and he wants her. Haken has no idea who he's talking about, but Kilrin knows that the woman is there since he has agents on the ship who ID'd her. His troops are about to board the ship through the airlock, and the agents he has on board will make sure they succeed. If anyone tries to stop them, he'll blow the ship out of the sky. Since he was doing that anyway, you plan on fighting back. Haken knows who Kilrin is, and while he won't destroy the ship until he gets what he came for, he's well known for his brutality. The minute he gets Asara, he will slaughter everyone on board, so your only chance is to get to the airlock and stop the boarders. There are soldiers on board, so he calls the commander and tells him to meet you by the airlock. When you fight your way to the airlock, Commander Narlock and his security forces are already there, and they're ready to join the fight the moment the Imperials break through. So with them adding their strength to yours, you're able to hold off the invaders. Unfortunately, it turns out the whole airlock infiltration was a distraction, something that Asara runs in to tell you. It turns out that the person the Imperials are after is the woman who was talking to you right before the attack started, and she came to tell you that right after Haken sent you to the airlock, a Mandalorian mercenary named Iron Fist led a sneak attack on the bridge. Him and his crew took control of it, and now the area is locked down. The Imperials want Asara pretty badly, which makes sense since her whole mission is to go into Imperial-controlled worlds and convince them to join the Republic. She's very good at it, which is why they want to capture her and give her a slow, very unpleasant pathway to the great beyond. She doesn't want that for obvious reasons, so she really wants you to retake the bridge. The only people who would know how to get through the lockdown are the engineers down in the engineering section of the ship. It won't be easy for you to get there, so Narlock and his men head off to distract the soldiers while you clear a path to the engineering section. The engineers are happy to see a Jedi since the lockdown has also trapped them in their section. They could get you to reset the reactor, which would undo the lockdown, but it would also vent the engineering department, killing all of them. There are conduits around the area that can be shut down that would also end the lockdown without killing them, but it would be more dangerous to try since there are Imperials all over the area. Asara wants to just kill all of the engineers to get to the bridge ASAP, but no Jedi would agree to that, so you head off to do things the more difficult yet far less evil way, which works, giving you access to the bridge. Mandalorians aren't exactly soft targets, and Iron Fist is one of the best, so he'll definitely put up a fight. While he's good, he's no match for a Jedi of your skills, so you take him down, reclaiming the bridge. Even though you've retaken the ship, the situation is still pretty bad, but Asara has an idea. She wants you to take a shuttle to Kilrin's ship and destroy their tractor beam so the Assailles can escape. Since she's been on warships like that one, she thinks she can guide you to the beam's controls. Haken thinks it's a good idea too, but not for the reason you might think. While Asara's changing into a Republic uniform so the Imperials won't know that she's left the Assailles, Haken tells you that it might be for the best if you leave Asara on the Imperial ship so they won't have a reason to keep coming after them. None of these people seem to understand Jedi at all because they're not exactly known for simply sacrificing people all willy-nilly. But time is too short to argue the point, so you board the ship and get to work. Kilrin learns that you're on board pretty fast, and he has something special waiting for you. You disable the tractor beam, but when you and your boarding party try to hop on the shuttle to get back to your ship, you all get attacked by a Sith. He's very eager to fight a Jedi, so you give him the fight he wants and help him become one with the Force before you lead Asara to the shuttle and head back to the Asaylis, where you all get out of there before the Imperials have a chance to blow you out of the sky. Haken is happy that your mission was a success, but he's not all that glad that Asara made it back. Regardless, the day is saved, and the crew is more than happy to drop you off on Coruscant, despite the fact that Kilran will definitely be coming after all of you in the future. This concludes the story of the Asaylis Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. When you get to the Imperial fleet on your trip to Dromund Kaas, Crystal Markon, the woman you're supposed to meet there, has set up passage for you on the Black Talon, a very fast Imperial transport ship. Since you want to get to the planet as soon as possible, you hop aboard even though the ship does pass through some not so safe locations. When you arrive, Lieutenant Silas is there to greet you, and she claims to have your droid in the conference room waiting for you. The only problem is you don't have a droid, so the thing asking for you by name is a bit weird. It's pretty obvious someone wants to talk to you, so you go to see this droid. The droid, NR-02, was sent by Grand Moff Kilran, the commander of the Imperial 5th Fleet, specifically to get in touch with you. He needed some help with the mission, so he had his droid go through the ship's passenger logs just to see who was on board with the necessary skills. With you being a very accomplished bounty hunter, you fit in well with what he needs. 6 hours ago, the Republic got into a very illegal border skirmish very close to Imperial territory. They lost the battle, but one of their warships, the Bruntel Star, escaped. It's carrying a passenger that Kilran once captured, and the Black Talon is the only ship close enough to do the job. The person he wants is called the General, and the Republic thinks he knows some Imperial secrets. Kilran needs the man caught or killed, but Captain Orzik, the man who's in control of the Black Talon, doesn't think the General is worth the trouble, so he disobeyed Kilran's order to attack. He wants you to deal with him, take over the ship, find the Bruntel Star, and deal with the General. He says all of this like it's supposed to be easy, but it definitely won't be. However, since your only choice is to do the job or make an enemy of the Empire, you head off to complete your mission. The soldiers aren't just gonna let you take over their ship, so using quite a few blaster bolts and explosives, you clear a path to the bridge so you can have a conversation with the captain. He knew Kilran wouldn't like him disobeying his orders, but he hadn't expected the man to get someone to take over the ship. He didn't simply disobey for no reason. The Black Talon is a good ship, but it's not a match for the Bruntel Star. Going after it would be a suicide mission, and he's not exactly up for killing his crew for no reason. Lucky for him, not all bounty hunters are bloodthirsty killers, unless they're paid to be, so you don't kill him, and even though you were good enough to take over the ship, the Star is an entirely different animal. He might be able to get close enough to it for you to board the thing, but then you'd have to fight through an army of Republic soldiers to find the General. It does sound bad, but Kilran hasn't really given you all that much of a choice, so you're either going to get killed by the Republic or Kilran. Since you and Orzik are in the same boat, and the captain isn't ready to get labeled a traitor just yet, he takes his ship into battle against the Bruntel Star. The battle does not start off well, especially since the Republic sends a boarding party that you have to deal with. You manage to keep them from taking over the ship from the inside, but the space battle isn't exactly going in your favor. Things get even worse when a call comes through from Jedi Grandmaster Satele Shan herself. She's not on the Star, which is fortunate for you, because you'd have a better chance of surviving if you just tossed yourself out of an airlock naked. But she is on her way there with 16 Republic ships. She's giving you this one chance to retreat because if you're still there when she shows up, she's going to blow you out of the sky. The Star was under her protection, and she sent it off ahead of them when they got attacked, which is the complete opposite of what Kilran said happened. But it's not a surprise that an Imperial commander would lie, nor does it change the fact that he will off you if you don't complete the mission. Since Satele has no intention of letting you take the General, you have to be done before she gets there. Not wasting any more time with planning, since there's no way to make this mission any easier, you join a boarding party and invade the Star. Once you're on board, your droid finds the General, and it turns out that the Republic is trying to evacuate him. You can't let that happen, so you and the soldiers you were given for backup fight your way to where the General is. He's being protected by a young Padawan who, fortunately for you, is nowhere near as skilled as a full Jedi Knight, which lets you join the ranks of the non-Force users who have taken down a Jedi. With her out of the way, you finally get your hands on the General who got hurt when your ship attacked, but he'll live. He wishes he hadn't, because he really doesn't want to see how bad the galaxy will be once the war between the Empire and the Republic picks back up. Not with what he knows is coming. Both sides have upgraded their weapons during their brief truce, and when the fighting starts back up again, both sides will be capable of destroying entire planets, and they both have people who are willing to do it. That's a bit above your pay grade, plus your world's gonna end anyway if you don't bring him in, so you take him back to the Talon and get out of there before the Republic reinforcements show up and wipe you all out. This concludes the story of the Black Talon Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. The Jedi Master Oteg, who commands the Republic fleet, left his droid out so it could get your attention when you walk by. Calling you on your personal frequency would have been easier, but this way he can be sure that no one will be able to listen in. He needs your help with something important, so secrecy is a very high priority. He's gotten some info that says the Empire has a secret prison inside of a place called the Maelstrom Nebula. It's pretty much impossible to fly there without dying if you don't have the right equipment, but the Empire is keeping a Jedi there who has some extremely important information, so you need to free him. Normally, no information would be worth taking on such a risky mission, but the particular Jedi knows exactly what the Sith Emperor is planning, so freeing him is worth any price. Oteg will tell you the full plan when you meet him on his ship, so you head to the Dreadnought Telos to see just what you're about to have to do. When you get to the ship, Oteg lets you know that the way he found out about the prison wasn't exactly normal, but Jedi are used to strange things, so you're pretty sure nothing he tells you will be that far out of the ordinary. And you would have been wrong, because the source of his information appears, and it's the ghost of a long-dead Jedi. While Force ghosts aren't exactly the rarest thing in the galaxy, they don't usually pop up in random places talking about launching a prison break to stop the end of all life. According to her, the prisoner has been holding the Emperor back for 300 years, but he's starting to wear down. If he loses, then he'll fall to the dark side, and the Emperor will use him to wipe out everything. You have a lot of questions, like how this guy lived for 300 years, but the dead Jedi can't stay for long, so you'll have to get your answers after you break into the prison. The Jedi did manage to tell Oteg what he'll need to get there. There's a special computer called a Gree that the Imperials have in one of their fortresses, and it's the only thing that can guide a ship through the nebula. The Gree are an extremely old civilization whose inventions are hardly seen anymore, so how the Empire got their hands on some of their tech is a complete mystery, but you're gonna get it by utilizing the 5-finger discount. Their fortress is on a planet called Taral 5, and it's guarded by way too many warships for the Republic to launch a direct attack. So Oteg's people decided to capture an Imperial shuttle and let you and a small team use it to sneak past the guards and land on the planet. Oteg and his fleet will hide out on the edge of the system so he can watch your progress, and if things start to go wrong, they'll come to get you. It's the best plan you've got, so using your stolen shuttle, you make your way to the planet and get to work. It's a very dangerous world, not just because of the Imperials, but there are a lot of very unfriendly and very large creatures there that are very eager to eat intruders. But you make your way into one of the Empire's facilities and contact Oteg to find out exactly where you need to go next. His slicers have been shutting down the Empire security grid to make it easier for you to get into the fortress, and for them to get you off-world when the job is done. And since the fleet isn't expecting a ground assault, you shouldn't have to deal with them. He sends you the location of the fortress, and you get back to business. When you get inside of the fortress, you get contacted by your old not friend Grand Moff Kilran, who is happy to see that he gets another opportunity to finish you off since the whole Asales incident. He's in his ship above the planet, and even though you're in his people's fortress, he has no problem blowing them up to get to you. Oteg heard the transmission from the crazy Moff, so he takes his fleet in to stop him from dropping more bombs on you, but you don't have long to get the computer. The last thing guarding it is a general using a lot of highly experimental Jedi-killing tech that does little to keep him alive or make you not be. And once he's done, you find the scientist and the very small computer that you need. Dr. Narum, the guy in charge of the facility, doesn't want to give you the computer since Darth Malgus got it when he was out in the Outer Rim, and without it, the hundreds of ships that they have studying the Maelstrom Nebula will all be destroyed. The safe paths into and out of the place change by the minute, and if you take the computer, hundreds of civilians will die. Since you're not a monster, you let him send a final order for them to leave through a safe route before you take the computer and get out of there before Kilran finishes blowing up the fortress, proving that you cared more about the lives of his people than he did. Oteg's fleet lost quite a few major ships during the battle, but there's no time to cry about it since you need to get to the prison before the Empire puts more defenses around it. His people have already started using your computer to plot a safe route to the Maelstrom prison. So you get ready to head out to save a man who's apparently so important that the entire facility was built just to hold him. This concludes the story of the Taral 5 Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. Despite everything that it took for you to get to the Maelstrom prison, that was the easy part. Even though there's only one prisoner there and it's in the middle of a location that's almost impossible to reach, It's guarded by everything from highly advanced droids and soldiers armed with some brutal weapons to high-ranking Sith. Despite all of that, you prove to be so difficult to kill that Grand Moff Kilran contacts you when you hack into one of the prison's computers. He beats you to the prison and he has some of his ships positioned to wipe Jedi Master Oteg and his fleet out, which will leave you an easy target. Oteg lets you know that Kilran isn't bluffing. Between his fleet and the prison's defenses, Oteg's people won't last for much longer, so instead of letting them die, you tell them to retreat while you take down the prison's defenses and rescue the Jedi. Kilran won't bomb the prison like he did the fortress, so you won't have to worry about that at least. Oteg agrees, and you get back to cutting a path to the heart of the prison. When you reach the holding cell, Kilran himself shows up to stop you. Darth Malgus tells him to focus on securing the prisoner instead of fighting you, but the Moff has gotten so tired of you personally that he just wants you dead. Both he and Malgus are surprised that you're doing all of this without knowing who the prisoner is, and while Malgus respects your devotion to your cause, he thinks it's for the best if you die without knowing. Unfortunately for him, Kilran isn't up to the task, and you put the Moff down for good, letting you finally rescue the prisoner, who turns out to be none other than Revan, the legendary Jedi whose story was told in Knights of the Old Republic Part 1. You would think he'd be happy to be set free after being locked up for 300 years, but since he was the only thing keeping the Emperor from invading the galaxy, he's not all that thrilled. Not until the Force Ghost who guided you all to the prison in the first place appears and lets him know that he was losing the fight, and he needed to be set free before the Emperor could turn him back into Darth Revan and make him his pawn again. A very long time ago, Revan had led his friends to the edge of the galaxy to fight the Emperor, thinking that they could beat him, but they had seriously underestimated just how strong he was. They got betrayed, all of his friends died, and the Emperor used Sith alchemy to keep Revan alive. The Emperor is well over 1,000 years old, and he knows things about the Force that no one else does. He was able to use Revan's link to the light side to see visions of the future. But that link let Revan influence the Emperor a bit. He convinced him that peace with the Jedi was in his best interest, so he prevented the war that would end all things. What he didn't realize is that the war has already started. Once his dead Jedi friend tells him that, he leaves the prison with you, and you get out of there before anyone else can try to stop you. A lot of people died to save Revan, something that he's not happy about, but he is happy to see that the Jedi still make strong warriors. He's pretty sure that if you had been on his team back when he fought the Emperor, things might have gone differently. Despite that, he's not willing to join your crew. His link to the Emperor is broken now, but he learned a lot from him, so he plans on sharing all of that info with the Jedi before he puts an end to the Sith Empire for good. He knows of a place called the Foundry that the Emperor couldn't get him to reveal. It has the power to wipe out civilizations in the wrong hands, but Revan thinks that he can use it to save the galaxy from the Emperor. But that's his mission. Since you have your own, the two of you say your goodbyes, but not before he tells you that the Force Ghost who had guided you was Mitra Surik, his best friend, and a Jedi known as the Exile, or your character from Knights of the Old Republic Part 2. This concludes the story of the Maelstrom Prison Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. Darth Malgus, one of the highest ranking Sith in the Empire, needs you to complete a very important task for the Emperor that will do a lot when it comes to shifting the balance of power to their side in the war with the Jedi. For the last 300 years, the Emperor has held a Jedi captive, keeping him alive for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons was to get the Jedi to give up the location of the Foundry, an ancient space station that is extremely powerful. The Emperor couldn't get the man to give up the location, and unfortunately the Republic attacked the prison and freed the Jedi. That may turn out to be a good thing, because the Jedi fled to the Foundry. He brought a lot of Republic ships and soldiers with him, which made it a lot easier for Malgus to find the place. It won't be easy to take it though, but Moff Fenrir is assembling a large strike force to try. Malgus wants you to join him so you can take the Foundry and kill the escaped Jedi, so you go to meet with Moff Fenrir to see just how he plans on carrying out this attack. Most Moffs don't really seem to like working directly with the Sith, but Fenrir seems to be the opposite. The Foundry is built into an asteroid out in the Nanthri system, so it is extremely sturdy when it comes to outside attacks. And since the Empire has no idea what the facility is capable of, a straightforward attack could end with the fleet getting wiped out or having to destroy the facility entirely, neither of which are pleasant outcomes. So you need to find a way inside of the place before the fighting starts. There's a Republic cruiser that's bringing supplies and reinforcements to the facility at that very moment, and Moff Fenrir is going to capture it. He wants you to lead the boarding party, take over the ship, and use it to sneak into the Foundry. Technically, the Treaty of Coruscant is still active, so none of you are supposed to be directly fighting the Republic, but getting the Foundry is more important, so you invade the cruiser and get to work on the whole capturing it thing. Even though you're all supposed to be at peace, the Republic has more than a little bit of highly destructive weapons and soldiers on board who make your assault a lot more difficult. Not to mention the fact that there are quite a few Jedi on board too, all who are dead set on keeping you from taking their ship. When it becomes clear that they aren't tough enough to do the job, Captain Yalto, the woman in charge of the ship, decides to take drastic measures and sets the ship to self-destruct. Considering the fact that you need the ship intact, you make a detour from the bridge and shut down the reactors first before you finish off the last of the Republic's fighters and claim the ship for yourself. Captain Yalto is a tough woman, and since she saw how the Sith were in the last war, she doesn't even waste time trying to negotiate. But since you're not technically at war, killing the captives might make things escalate a little bit faster than even the Empire wants. So you decide to take the people prisoner instead of finishing them off, since they can always be executed later if need be. What's more important is you have the ship, and it has some useful information on the Foundry. There have been 3 other places like it in known history, and each one was able to mass produce highly advanced tech at rapid speeds. One was able to xenoform planets, another could build fleets of starships in an instant, and the Foundry can make an endless supply of battle droids. It's a Starforge that gives the owner access to a practically endless army, which means you really need to get it away from the escaped Jedi since he was a brilliant general back in his era. And with an infinite army, he really could wipe out the Empire. So you head off to use your stolen ship to lead a ground assault on the Foundry, while the fleet keeps the Republic distracted, which should give you the chance to kill a legendary Jedi from the past and take control of a weapon that will almost guarantee that the Empire wins the war against the Republic. This concludes the story of the boarding party Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. All of the preparations are done, so you and your crew take your stolen ship to the Foundry for what will very likely be your most dangerous mission so far. The Republic is a little bit suspicious about the fact that your ship is a few hours late, but you manage to convince them that you had to run away from an Imperial patrol, which is technically true. You just leave out the fact that you were the Imperials and you stole the ship. They let you dock, and you immediately get to work doing what you do best, and that's what in the far future will be known as aggressive negotiations. The facility is heavily guarded, which isn't exactly a surprise, since the Emperor's former prisoner has the place up and running and is pumping out droids at a very fast pace. Even so, you destroy enough of them to cause the Jedi to talk to you from a distance, since fighting you isn't his goal. He has a much bigger goal. He plans on destroying the Emperor and everything he's built, since his existence is a threat to the galaxy. If you agree to surrender to him, he won't kill you along with everyone else. Since the odds of you doing that are absolutely zero, he decides to turn the full might of the Foundry and its extermination droids against you. Those droids are led by his own personal assassin droid who had traveled with him before the Emperor had captured him, HK-47. The droid has always been a fan of all things death and destruction, so he's been enjoying sending the Foundry's tools after you. The Foundry's droids are unique because they have a built-in scanner that's designed to detect Sith genetic material, and they're programmed to kill anyone who has even a single drop of Sith DNA, which comes up to a little over 97% of the Empire. The Jedi who controls the place was never worried about simply using the Foundry to end the war. He was always planning on removing every bit of Sith blood, whether it was held by fighters or civilians from the galaxy. He's clearly working alone since the Jedi Council would never agree to do something like that. That makes stopping him even more important, but to get to him you have to go through HK-47, which is no easy feat. But you get the job done and go to face the Jedi. He honestly thinks that him wiping out billions of people to stop the Emperor from doing the same makes sense, simply because unlike the Emperor, he'll feel bad about doing it. I don't think the people he's about to obliterate will care all that much about how he feels since they'll be dead regardless. But this Jedi has been having his mind messed with since the moment the Emperor turned him from a Jedi into the Sith Lord Darth Revan 300 years ago. So it only makes sense that he's a bit crazy. The Republic hadn't even known that the Emperor or the Empire existed back then, but Revan had found hints about them on Korriban and Malachor. The Emperor had felt him getting close to things he wanted to keep hidden, so he had summoned Revan and corrupted him, leading to him nearly destroying the Republic. He had lost his memories in an attack from his own apprentice, and the Jedi took the opportunity to bring him back to the light side. When he started to get his memories back, he left his wife Bastila Shan to go and hunt for the Emperor, which led to the death of his friends and him getting locked up for 300 years. Since he's been both a Jedi and a Sith and he understands the Emperor better than anyone else, he believes that it's his job to kill him. This is the way that he plans on doing it, and no amount of talking to him will stop him, so you do the only thing that you can, and that's fight Darth Revan. He's obviously extremely powerful, but when he reaches the end of his life, he explodes in a burst of dark side energy that makes it seem likely that this time he's really dead. With Revan gone, you contact the fleet and let them know that the Foundry is yours, and you found out that the Jedi you were after turned out to be Revan. Moff Fenrir and Darth Malgus both knew this, but they decided to keep it a secret since even in the Empire, Revan has followers, and there's no telling what would have happened if people found out that he was alive. That won't be a problem now, and with the Foundry in Imperial control, there's all types of things that they can do. They may even be able to rebuild HK-47, giving you your own personal assassin droid to pal around with while you finish destroying the Republic. This concludes the story of the Foundry Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. Director Rigel of the SIS is dealing with a major problem that he needs your help with. 4 Republic colonies have been wiped out in the last 4 days, and by wiped out he means every living thing from the people to the animals have been completely obliterated. And it wasn't done by the Empire. The people in those colonies were burned to a crisp by their own droids. The droids had all been reprogrammed to hate their masters by a group of rogue droids called Directive 7, and this group have but a single mission. They want to wipe out every living thing in the galaxy. Directive 7 has been operating for a while, but the SIS was trying to avoid starting a panic by keeping the organization a secret, but things have finally gotten too bad for them to keep it hidden anymore. They're putting together a strike force to wipe them out, and they want you to be a part of it. This isn't exactly something that you can ignore since you have a droid on your ship that could cause real problems if it turned on you. So you head to the fleet to find out exactly what Rigel wants from you. Rigel is on edge for a good reason since this could be a bigger threat than the Empire. Fortunately, not all of the rogue droids agree with the destruction of all life, and one of them has been leaking information to the SIS. Rigel isn't 100% sure his informant is a droid since he hasn't actually seen him, but since Directive 7 only lets droids join for obvious reasons, he's pretty sure it's a droid that's leaking all of their secrets. Rigel's informant let him know that Directive 7 has a weapon in the form of a signal that they can use to force any droid to their side. They plan on sending that signal out across the entire galaxy to turn all droids into mindless anti-organic killing machines. Their tech is so advanced that there's no way to block it, so the only way to stop it will be to destroy it at the source. Their base is on a moon called Zad out in the unknown region, and it's too well guarded for an external attack. That means you'll have to do a ground assault. Rigel has a shuttle that you can use, and a squadron of starfighters who can get you to the surface, but after that you're going to be on your own. Since this is a pretty serious situation, you don't waste any time in heading off to Zad to stop the galaxy from being wiped out by an army of droids. The droids have put a lot of effort into defending their base, but as you go about doing what you do quite well, and that's leaving a pile of wreckage in your wake, you get contacted by C5M3, the droid that's been leaking information to Rigel. He lets you know that once you make it to the main facility's entrance, he'll be able to help you. But until then, you have to keep doing what you're doing, which means fighting through a lot more very large and destructive droids. When you reach the facility, C5M3 is waiting for you in person, where he finally introduces himself. He used to be a surgeon droid, but now he's free to do his own thing. He's seen enough of the bad things that mortals have done to not be a fan of them, but he still doesn't think that wiping you all out is the way to go. He's the only member of Directive 7 that feels that way though. The rest want all of you gone, something they prove by interrupting your conversation and trying to kill you. They are a part of Mentor, the leader of Directive 7, and the fact that they are all directly controlled by their leader explains why C5M3 would rather side with humans. No one who just got their freedom would want to give it up to be a part of a hive mind. Mentor thinks that he could convince C5 to join him if you would stop interfering, so he has his henchmen try to kill you, which they fail at. Pretty much everything inside of the facility has been merged with Mentor's mind, so he could have overrun you with droids at any moment. The only reason that he hadn't was because he didn't see you as a threat. That's going to change, so you're going to have a lot of fighting to do and you don't have a lot of time to do it. Once the facility's generator charges up, Mentor will be able to transmit his liberation signal, and that will be the end. The only way to stop him is to destroy his central processing core, which is in the most heavily guarded area of the place. So while you try to get there without dying, C5 will try to draw away some of his troops and keep you from getting locked out. As you fight your way to the core, you run into some products of Mentor's original plan for organics. He had turned some people into cyborgs so he could reprogram their brains, but that didn't work out so well, so he's going with the more brutal plan B. Mentor's core is huge and very well defended, but you manage to destroy him before he can upload himself into the minds of every droid in the galaxy. Destroying him does a bit more damage than you expected, and you have to escape the place before the entire moon breaks apart. Rigel has the audacity to complain about the way you did his job for him, and despite the fact that C5 helped you all save the galaxy, he wants to keep the droid as a Republic worker to make sure he doesn't end up becoming another mentor. Enslaving someone who helped you is a good way to turn them against you, and a good way to guarantee that no one helps you in the future, so you force Rigel to let C5 leave and live whatever life he wants, one that hopefully won't lead to this whole process starting over again. This concludes the story of the Directive 7 Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. Darth Malgus is making this move to take control of the Empire, and he's taken the Emperor's cloaked space station to start building an entirely undetectable fleet. To make sure neither the Republic or his rival Sith have a chance to interfere with his plans, he sent his troops to attack both sides on the planet Ilum. The planet is very important to the Republic, so they can't afford to lose it, but stopping Malgus' attack is important for another reason. The crystals on the planet are the last thing that he needs to finish building his stealth fleet. If he can get them, that'll be bad, but him sending ships could be a good thing, since one of them has to have the location of his base in their computers, otherwise they wouldn't be able to bring the crystals to him. If you can steal one of the ships, someone can fly it straight back to Malgus' base so you can finish him off once and for all. Commander Rands already has the pilot picked out, a man named Cole Cantorus, so he gets him to pick you up and drop you as close as he can to Malgus' fort so you can steal one of the ships. Before you head out, Satil Shan lets you know that Malgus has someone very strong in the Force leading the attack, and you'll likely have to go through him to get what you need, so you head off to get started. Fort Barrow is shielded and has an army in front of it, so there's a very good chance that you'll never make it inside anyway. But since there's no one better to do the job, you get started with the not so simple task of cutting a path through an army to get what you need. There's everything from dark side Force users to massive battle droids blocking your path, but eventually you manage to take down the shield generators and make your way inside of the fort to the ship that you want. Darth Malgus had indeed sent some powerful Force users to guard his ship, but one of those guards turning out to be a Voss Mystic was not on the list of obvious candidates. Since the Mystics can see visions of the future, she knew that you were coming, but her vision only showed you fighting her husband, not which one of you would live. A Voss being married to a pure-blood Sith also wasn't on your bingo card, but there have been odder couples. While you were fighting your way into the fort, Darth Seravan had sent an assassin to deal with the Republic's War Council, and he's pretty sure that they're all dead now. The fact that he knew exactly where they were and how to get to them was another bonus that came from Darth Malgus recruiting some of the Voss to his side. Seravan expects that number to grow exponentially once Telsa Ko sees a vision of her people's future with the Sith. That all depends on the outcome of your battle though. The one thing that she knows for sure is that she'll serve the winner, which means it's time to put Malgus' underling down. Telsa is sad to see Seravan die because despite him being a Sith, he had been honest about his intentions for her people. Unfortunately, he had also been right about there being an attack on your base, so after you decide to bring the Voss in alive, you race back to the command center to see if anyone else is still alive. Seravan's attack worked, but not as good as he'd hoped. His assassins had managed to set off an explosive in the base, but the top officer survived after getting some bad but not too fatal injuries. All of that is something that can be worried about later. The ship that you captured has the location of Malgus' base, so Cole is going to take you there immediately, and the fleet will follow so you won't have to face Malgus' army alone. This concludes the story of the Battle of Ilum Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. Everyone is afraid of what Darth Malgus can do with a fleet of ships that can't be detected, so once the homing beacon is installed on your recently stolen ship, you catch a ride to the station and get started with hunting for Malgus while breaking everything that you come across that looks important. The Sith Lord station is guarded by even more powerful droids and Force users than his fort had been, but Malgus isn't the one responsible for the highly advanced weapons that are being used against you. Arcus Woad and his Schism Collective are the ones responsible for that. Their skills with all things technology are highly advanced, but the experiments that they did were so inhumane that the Republic banned them. Malgus doesn't have any of the moral hang-ups that most people do, so he got them to work for him. As soon as you get close to the station's power core, Arcus shows you just how strong their weapons are by blowing up one of the capital ships that came to cover you. No fleet can stand up to that station's cannons for long, so you'll have to find Arcus and stop him. But Malgus had restored HK-47 after he was broken at the foundry, and he sends the murder bot after you. Once you beat the droid, you track down Arcus. He is not even remotely interested in dying for Malgus's cause, so if you say you'll put in a good word for him with the Republic, he'll do a bit of damage to the station before he leaves. That's too good of an offer to pass up since you still have to fight your way to Malgus, so you accept, and Arcus tells his people to evacuate before setting the station's guns to start blowing up Malgus's fleet. All that's left now is for you to deal with the new Emperor. He has a lot of guards, but he sends them away because he's more than confident in his ability to take you on by himself. Even with Arcus sabotaging the cannons, his fleet is still overpowering the Republic, so Malgus isn't worried about them messing up his mission of reforging the Empire into something better than what it was. He didn't realize that Arcus had also shut down the station's shields. That does make him upset. But since he's about to lose the station anyway, he sets the power core to explode so it'll wipe out the entire fleet, which will still serve his purpose. He's the only one who can shut down the self-destruct sequence, so if you kill him, the fleet will be wiped out. Taking Malgus down is more than worth the risk though, so you finish him off, send a message to the fleet telling them to run for their lives, before booking it back to Ilum to celebrate taking down the most dangerous Sith Lord of the era, and putting a major dent in the Empire for what will likely be a very long time. This concludes the story of the false Emperor Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. The war between the Jedi and the Sith hasn't gone all that well for the Jedi. Their temple on Coruscant got destroyed, killing a whole lot of them. The ones who survived moved to Tython to try and train the next generation of Jedi before the war picks up again. Lucky for them, a very strong Padawan has come to the planet to undergo her final trials and become a Jedi Knight, and that's where our story begins. When you first touch down on the planet, you're greeted by the Jedi Knight Darren Weller, who, like most of the other Jedi on the planet, have heard about you and your exceptional skills. The Council is planning on assigning you to a Jedi Master who will finish your training, which won't be as easy as you may think. The plan was to get you to the temple right away, but a call comes through that some of the local creatures called Flesh Raiders have attacked the Padawan training grounds, and they're armed with blasters, which is very out of the ordinary for the primitive creatures. The things are dangerous without advanced weapons, so throwing those into the mix makes the situation far worse. So Darren sends out a call to all of the nearby Jedi for help. Since you have more fighting experience than most of the other Padawans, he sends you out to help too while he tries to get in touch with the Council. After helping thin the herd of raiders, you get a call from Darren. He had joined in the fight and took a hit to the leg while trying to protect some people, so he's being shipped off to the temple for treatment. He had heard from another Padawan that the raiders are using a cave to enter the valley, so you head there to cut off their point of entry. When you make it to the cave, you see a Jedi named Caliph getting ready to kill a Padawan for the crime of being weak and holding back the Jedi Order. He doesn't sense that same weakness in you, probably because you killed a lot of his followers on your way there. According to the Padawan, Caliph is leading the Flesh Raiders, something he proves by calling two of them over to help him deal with you. They aren't nearly strong enough, and you finish them off only moments before a Jedi Master named Orgus Den shows up. Once you let him know what happened with the rogue Jedi, he says that regardless of what Caliph said, he wasn't a Jedi, at least not one that was trained by anyone Orgus knew. Him leading the Flesh Raiders in their attack proves something that Orgus had been trying to get the Council to understand for a while. The creatures that they thought were mindless monsters are much smarter and potentially more dangerous than they wanted to believe. While he didn't recognize Caliph, Orgus does see something familiar about his lightsaber, so he takes it to see if the Jedi Council can use it to figure out who the guy was. After he uses the Force to collapse the tunnel so no more Flesh Raiders can come through, he takes the injured Padawan to the medical center while he tells you to head to the Jedi Temple and tell the Council what happened. When you get to the temple, Satele Shan, the leader of the council and a descendant of Bastila Shan and Revan, who you definitely know if you play the Knights of the Old Republic game, tells you to come to meet with her before you talk to the full council. She and everyone else in the temple have already heard about what you did during the training grounds raid, and she wanted to make sure that killing the Jedi traitor hadn't affected you in any negative way. Once she's sure that it hasn't, she sends you on to the council chambers where they're already discussing the incident. Master Bayla Kiwix has gone through the archives to see if she could find anything on the rogue Jedi. And it turns out that the man you killed had never received formal Jedi training, which makes her apprentice Kira think that the Sith must have tracked you all down. Orgus isn't so sure of that, since if the Sith were involved, they would have probably done something a little more dangerous than sending some natives armed with a few blasters to take down the Jedi. The Masters have all been sensing something bad coming for a while, so it's possible that whatever's going on with the Flesh Raiders is a part of that. The Jedi had thought that they were just disorganized primitives, but the fact that they could be united and led to carry out an organized attack proves otherwise. Orgus is pretty sure that their leader wasn't acting alone, and since most of Tython is still unexplored, there are a lot of places where a lot of people could hide. the Jedi don't actually have the resources to explore them all, so Orgus decides to take you on as his Padawan and handle the hunt with you. Considering the fact that he hasn't taken an apprentice in years, this says a lot about the potential he sees in you, and just how hard he plans on pushing you. With the council meeting done, Orgus decides to get started on the mission immediately by sending you to talk to the Twi'lek pilgrims who have been fighting the Flesh Raiders for months. They had asked the Republic for help, but since they had moved to the planet without going through the proper channels, the Jedi were ordered not to help them, which means they probably won't be all that eager to talk to you, but that's something that you'll have to deal with because Orgus has something else to do before he can meet you in their camp. The Twi'lek matriarch and her daughter Rana aren't exactly surprised that the Jedi finally came to join in their fight, since they all know about the Raiders attacking them, but they aren't exactly in a position where they can turn down help since their fight isn't going well, and the matriarch is sick. Since the Raiders got their new weapons, they've been picking the Twi'leks off. Some of the scouts have seen the cave where they store their weapons, but they don't have the manpower or tools to raid the place. Getting in won't be hard for a Force user though, and that'll let you steal the weapons for the Twi'leks to give them a fighting chance. That act will go a long way toward getting the pilgrims to trust you, so you do what any peace-loving Jedi would, and that's slaughter dozens of weaker creatures to complete your goal. When you get to the weapon storage facility, you find a recon droid that they stole, who just so happens to have seen the true leader of the Raiders giving orders to the fake Jedi that you killed. He's wearing a robe so you can't see his face, but that video is more than a little useful, so you take the droid with you so you can show it to Orgus. After bringing the pilgrims the weapons, you show the droid to Orgus, who recognizes it as one of the 20 droids they had sent to gather information. It's the only one that survived, so it probably has a lot of useful information on it outside of what you saw. Orgus gets started on going through that, while you talk to Rana to see if her people are ready to help the Jedi since you helped them. According to their scouts, the Flesh Raiders have fully taken over the nearby mountains and now they're invading the ruins of Calith. The place had once been a city of Force users, and the ruins hold power that even the Jedi don't understand. The Raiders are looking for something in the ruins, and since whatever they find will probably not be good for any of you, Orgus sends you to the ruins to stop them while he takes the droid to the council. Orgus recognizes the voice of the man in the video, and if it's who he thinks it is, then the situation is a lot worse than he thought. So you head off to handle the Raiders while Orgus promises to send you some backup. In a quite unexpected twist, one of the Flesh Raiders can not only talk, but he can use the Force. He's not all that strong though, so you put him down before Master Kiwix and Kira show up. They were your backup, but you finished the job without them. Kiwix finds a very old holocron in the Flesh Raider's pocket, and since those contain the knowledge of ancient Jedi or Sith depending on the type, it's proof that the Flesh Raiders are a lot smarter than the Jedi thought, and they're using their intelligence to learn how to fight Jedi. She also figured that Orgus knows who's been helping teach the Raiders, but he didn't have time to tell her before he sent her off to help you, and she won't get the chance to help with the investigation anymore since Satio has given her a mission. The council thinks that all of the bad feelings they've been getting have something to do with the Republic's capital, so Kiwix and Kira are about to head to Coruscant. Before they head out, she gives you some monitors to put around the ruins. That way the people at the temple can watch the place and know if any more raiders come hunting for ancient Jedi relics. Once you handle that, you get a call from Orgus. He's headed back to the Twi'lek village and he wants you to meet him there. Kiwix told him about the Force using Flesh Raider before she left and how she thought he learned his techniques from the holocron, but that's not the case. The man in the recording that T7 had is Bingo Moore, and he had been Orgus's Padawan before the Jedi Temple got destroyed by the Sith. He had been inside, so they had thought he died like everyone else since he didn't really have a reason to sneak off. According to Orgus, Bingo was strong in the Force and a good person, so him going over to the dark side just didn't seem like something that would happen. Regardless, he needs to be dealt with. While the two of you are discussing what to do, Rana lets you know that her mother probably won't live for that much longer, so she'll be taking over the camp. Her people have found the Flesh Raiders' base of operations in the mountains, but it has an energy shield around it, so raiding it is out of the question. The shield generator is on a different mountain in a cave and it's very well guarded. While that makes things difficult, it does tell you what needs to be done. Taking down their base will likely put an end to all of the Flesh Raider attacks, so Orgus heads there while giving you the task of shutting down the shield so he can get inside. It's probably a job for more than one person, but apparently he has a lot of faith in his new Padawan's abilities, so you head off to prove to him that you can do the job. The Flesh Raiders who are guarding the shield generator are nowhere near strong enough to cause you any real trouble, so you manage the job without any problems. When you complete the task, Bingo Moore contacts you to make a few threats since you did kill his apprentice, but even though he seems unhinged, he hasn't gone over to the dark side. He thinks the Jedi Order has lost its way since they made peace with the Sith, and every Jedi on Tython needs to be wiped out if there's any hope of bringing in new blood that will be able to handle the Empire. Bingo not being a dark Jedi doesn't make him any less dangerous, so you head back to the Twi'lek camp to talk to Rana, and to see if Orgus has made any progress on his end. Orgus hasn't contacted her, but while you were gone, her mother died, and now she's in charge of the village. She doesn't have much time to mourn because someone comes running in screaming about how the Flesh Raiders have attacked the village and they've dropped some machines in their fields that's letting out a poison that none of them can get through. Jedi are much better equipped to deal with poison than normal people, so you go to clear out the machines and the invaders so the Twi'leks won't lose their food source. When that's done, Orgus calls you to let you know that he's dealt with the Flesh Raider base. You get the chance to tell him what his old apprentice said, and the fact that the man isn't a Sith makes Orgus feel like there may be a chance to get the man back on the right track instead of simply killing him. He found the location of other Raider bases while he was doing his thing, and he sent their location to the other Jedi Masters so they can start clearing them out, because there are a whole lot of them. Way too many for the two of you to handle alone. There's a camp in Upper Caled that he wants you to deal with, but if you run into Bingo Moore, he doesn't want you to fight him alone. It's highly unlikely that the fallen Jedi will wait for your backup to show up before he sticks a lightsaber through you, so you go there ready to deal with him just in case. The Flesh Raiders there are all Force users, and they managed to not only fatally injure a Jedi Knight, but they stole his lightsaber, which makes dealing with them even more complicated, but you take them down and retrieve the weapon. The moment you recover the lightsaber, Orgus calls to tell you that he got a call from the Twi'lek camp saying that they've seen Bingo Moore. Since all of the rest of the Jedi are off dealing with the other bases, you and Orgus are the only ones close enough to get to Moore, so you both head there. Orgus was closer, so he should have beaten you to the camp, but when you show up, not only is Orgus nowhere to be seen, but Rana claims that they never called him. T7 can't get in touch with him, which seems a bit odd, right up until someone shoots you with a sleeping dart and knocks you unconscious. The Twi'leks did see Moore, and they had decided to make a deal with him to catch Orgus off guard and capture him. Part of the deal was to also kill you, but Rana didn't feel right about that, so she stopped the others for long enough for you to wake back up. Since the Jedi had abandoned them to their fate when it came to dealing with the Flesh Raiders and only offered to help them when they needed something, having them agree to help Bingo Moore to save their own skin made sense. But they aren't stupid enough to try to fight you face to face, so they call off the attack. Before they leave, they tell you that Moore was taking Orgus to a place called the Forge, so you may have time to save him. It doesn't take T7 long to find out where the Forge is, so the two of you head there to save your master before Bingo Moore can finish him off. After fighting your way through a lot of his troops, you finally catch up to the fallen Jedi at the base of the place that was used to craft the lightsabers of New Jedi. He had been waiting for you so he could kill both you and Orgus at the same time. He really feels like he's doing the right thing for the Jedi, because he thinks something broke in them when the Sith destroyed their temple on Coruscant. That is the only way they could have possibly decided to make peace with the people who had slaughtered millions for nothing. He thinks he's strong enough to lead a new order of Jedi down the right path, but you prove him wrong by beating him. The fact that you're stronger than he is makes him think that you might be strong enough to heal the Jedi. But since the only thing that is really broken is his mind, you knock him out so you can take him in, after you wake up Orgus to see if he's okay. He's not hurt too badly, and he's happy to see that you managed to bring in his old apprentice alive. After everything you've done, he thinks that you've pretty much learned everything that he could possibly teach you, so he gives you the materials to make your own lightsaber, while he takes Bingo back to the Jedi Temple. Once you're done and you finish testing your new weapon on the monster that shows up when the Forge gets activated, you head back to the temple where the Council officially promotes you to the rank of Jedi Knight, while deciding on how they're going to change the way they deal with the Twi'leks to keep them from hating the Jedi in the future. While your training on Tython is over, your work definitely isn't. Master Kiwix calls from Coruscant with an urgent message. The darkness that they had all been sensing was coming from there, and she needs help to deal with it because it could threaten the entire Republic. Not wasting any time, you hop on a shuttle to Coruscant to get to work dealing with a much bigger problem than the last one. This concludes the Tython portion of the Jedi Knight storyline. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. While the Empire and the Republic have formed some type of truce, the Sith, in the midst of all their usual plotting and scheming, have started sending some of their slaves to Korriban to dig up and track down some of the lost relics of ancient Sith, as well as to bolster their army by scooping up any slaves that may be strong in the Force. One slave that has a lot of potential has been released from captivity and sent to the Sith Temple to either gain the power required to join the ranks of the Dark Lords, or die. And that's where your journey begins. When you land on the planet, you meet Harkin, the man responsible for introducing the new recruits to their new lives as Sith in training, and he's responsible for testing them to see if they're worthy. He also gets to kill the ones who aren't, because the Sith do things in a very not smart way. He's doing all of this under the orders of Lord Zash, who wants him to find her a worthy apprentice out of your group. None of your trials are the same, and for some reason Harkin has an extra bit of disdain for you, so your test will probably be harder than most. For your first trial, he wants you to go and talk to a hermit named Spindrel, who lives out in the tomb of Ajunta Paul in the Valley of the Dark Lords. The man's insane, but anyone who would live in the tomb of a dead Sith Lord has to be, but Zash thinks he's a bit of a prophet, so you have to go and meet him. When you find him, the man will test you in whatever random way he decides. If you pass, Harkin wants you to come back to the academy for test number 2. Granted, he really seems to be hoping that you don't make it back at all, so you head off to find this hermit and prove to the man that you won't die that easily. Spindrel knows why you're there, but before he's willing to teach you anything, he wants you to pass a trial of blood. In other words, he has a few of his people try to kill you. When you prove that you're the better fighter by ending all of their living, Spindrel deems you worthy of learning the Code of the Sith, which are the tenets that all Sith have to live by if they want to gain true power. While Jedi teach their students not to give in to their emotions, the opposite is true for the Sith. Fear, anger, hatred, and the like make you stronger, and Spindrel wants you to use your fear and hatred of Harkin to get strong enough to overcome whatever he throws at you. That way you can get Lord Zash's attention. Whether Harkin likes you or not is irrelevant. You only have to impress Zash. When you get back to the academy, Harkin isn't exactly happy that Spindrel didn't just kill you. But since he didn't, that means you passed your test. Another apprentice named Corey didn't, so Harkin does the only logical thing that you do to a student who fails a test, and that's electrocute her to death. After his bout of casual murder, Harkin introduces all of the remaining students to Fawn, the man that he says is Lord Zash's future apprentice. He's obviously picked his favorite, but his job requires him to at least pretend like the rest of you have a chance, so he gives you all your next trial. The trial that was picked for you was set up by Zash personally. She wants you to go to Inquisitor Zen in the prison and help him with a little bit of information extraction. That's the polite way of saying torture. Recently, there was an unsanctioned murder at the academy due to a rivalry between students. Killing other students is fine, but only during certain times, and this wasn't one of them, so the Inquisitor wants you to get his prisoner to tell him who committed the murder. It doesn't take much to get the prisoner to talk. He's scared that if he snitches, he'll get killed, but after hitting him with a bit of lightning, he realizes that maybe getting killed for being a rat is better than definitely getting killed for trying to keep information from you. The murderer turns out to be the apprentice of one of the members of the Dark Council, so not even the Inquisitor is crazy enough to try to punish him, so that means the snitch is screwed. But you pass your trial, which is all that matters, so you head back to Harkin to get your next one, as well as whatever threats he decides to throw at you this time. Zen sent word of your success, and Harkin isn't all that happy to admit that Zash is happy with what he said about you. Now the Sith Lord wants to test both you and Fawn's intelligence to see how well the two of you can use the Force to solve problems. But you won't have the same test because Harkin has no intention of letting this contest be fair. He's sending Fawn to the library to translate some ancient writings for Zash, while he wants you to go to the tomb of the Sith Lord Mark Aragnos and get his holocron. Aside from the fact that all of the tombs are super dangerous, no one has managed to even move the holocron from the spot where it's been sealed away for over 1,000 years. So again, Harkin is trying his best to make sure that you fail. The holocron doesn't take as much effort to get as Harkin made it sound like it would, which means it either wasn't as special as the man claimed, or you're more special than even you are aware of. Either way, you bring it back to Harkin without getting any of the praise that you should have. He even goes so far as to accuse you of bringing back a fake, even though he doesn't believe that himself. While you did pass your trial, another of the apprentices didn't, but instead of killing him himself, he has Fawn do it this time. He did it in a way that was supposed to intimidate you, but killing someone who was too scared to even fight back isn't exactly impressive. Since that didn't make you want to quit, Harkin gives you your next test. Lord Zash wants some writing from the tomb of Tulak Horde, so once again you're being sent into one of the very dangerous tombs of a fallen Sith. The place is just as dangerous as you'd expect, but you get what you came for and head back to Harkin. Before you get to talk to the Teacher of the Year, you run into Lord Zash herself. She's impressed with what you've done, especially with you getting that holocron, and she's excited to see what you manage to do in the future. Once you hand over the notes that you got from the tomb and Harkin and Fawn insult and threaten you a bit, he sends you to the Academy's training facility because he thinks you're a terrible fighter and needs a bit of work. That sounds a bit suspicious since he hasn't given you any training, so he doesn't know if you can fight or not, but you follow orders and head off. Turns out Harkin had sent 2 other apprentices up there so they could sneak you, but the fact that you survived the dangers of the tombs of the Sith makes cutting them down nothing more than a bit of light work. Harkin had expected you to be dead, but since you're not, that means you and Fawn are the last 2 apprentices left. This time the 2 of you will be working on completing the same task, one that Harkin gave the other man a head start on because he's been trying to make him win from jump. There's a map hidden in the center of Nagasato's tomb, and that's what you're supposed to recover. The thing is, no one has ever even figured out how to get inside of the room. To get the map, you'll have to wake up an ancient creature called a Dashad. There's no way to get to the map without it, but the thing eats Force users, so there's a good chance it'll try to kill you once you wake it up. But whichever apprentice gets the map will become Zash's apprentice, and with Fawn having a head start, you had better get going. Before you head out, Zash shows up and she has some information that she found in those papers that you gave her. It tells how to get to the map, and since Harkin tried to cheat by letting Fawn get a head start, he's not there when Zash tells you the trick to freeing the Dashad, which she thinks was actually Tulak Horde's personal assassin that he sealed away. With what Zash told you, you open the door to the Dashad and come face to face with the not-so-tiny creature. The thing actually isn't some mindless beast. Its name is Kimval, and it wasn't a prisoner at all. It was following Tulak Horde's orders and waiting there like his master told him to. He's not all that happy to see you since he thinks you showing up there is some type of insult to him. He had no idea how long he'd been in stasis, but hearing that you don't even know about the many battles that Tulak Horde won doesn't do much to improve Kimval's mood. Either way, he's hungry, and he plans on eating you. Once you prove that you're too strong for him to eat while he's in his weakened state, he decides that he has to serve you, at least until he's strong enough to eat you. So with your new ginormous friend in tow, you head deeper into the tomb to retrieve the map. It's guarded by a very large something, which explains at least part of the reason why you needed the Dashad. Once the thing's dead, you get the map and head back to the temple. You walk in with the Dashad and the map just as Fawn is talking about how no one would be able to get that thing. Neither Harkin nor Fawn are happy to see either of you, but Harkin thinks he can play this to his advantage by just taking your map and letting Fawn give it to Zash. The fact that he assumed that you and your very large friend wouldn't fight him over that is hilarious, but you don't get the chance to because Zash shows up herself. Fawn tries to claim that he found the map for her, but since she already knows that's BS, he admits that he didn't. For that, and for the fact that Harkin tried to force her to pick the apprentice he wanted, she kills Fawn and tells you to meet her in her office so you can accept your place as her new apprentice. She already has work for you, and it involves the map that you found, but she won't talk about it at the academy. Too many people are always trying to listen in, so she wants you to meet her in her quarters on the planet Droman Kas. That's where she'll tell you what's coming next, and as a parting gift, she gives you her first lightsaber and heads off. Apparently, a Dark Lord named Darth Scotia doesn't want whatever Zash is planning to happen, because he sent some people to kill you to keep you from ever going to Droman Kas. You test out your new lightsaber on them and head off to see just what kind of mess your new master has gotten you into. Just because the Sith Empire and the Galactic Republic are fighting doesn't mean that everything else that happens in the galaxy stops, which is why the Great Hunt is about to start. Bounty hunters from all over compete for the right to enter the competition, where they must capture or kill some of the most dangerous and famous targets. The rewards for winning are enough to make any bounty hunter's mouth water, which is why you're headed to Hutta to team up with some fellow hunters so you can hopefully earn a spot in the hunt. When you get to the place where Braden, the man who recruited you, is setting things up, he introduces you to the rest of the team. The Great Hunt isn't a solo mission, even though most of the frontline work will be your responsibility. You'll still need people to do all of the behind-the-scenes stuff. Mako is going to handle all of the intel gathering and hacking duties, and Jory is the guy who handles security around the base itself. The Great Hunt is the most famous bounty hunter competition in the galaxy, but not even Mako, who knows practically everything about the history of the profession, has any idea what you'll actually have to do during the event. What she does know are the names of every hunter who's won the thing, and just how rich they got afterwards, which is the whole reason why any of you are there. There are two types of participants, the Mandalorian elites and the freelancers who have to get sponsored by the most influential people in the criminal underworld. Since you're not a Mandalorian, you'll have to get sponsored. Nimro the Hutt runs Jaguna, and Braden has enough influence to get you a meeting with him, but it's your job to impress him. The best way for a bounty hunter to do that is to take down some of the people who have some pretty big bounties. Braden's got Mako planning some rumors about your many kills off-world, so you bringing down a dangerous, well-known local target will make that reputation more believable, or you'll get killed on the mission and all of this will be a waste of time. Since Hutta is not a place for civilized people, it doesn't take long for Mako to pick a target. There's a Corellian named Vex who's known for being a really good shot and for robbing Imperial pay stations. Robbing Imperial banks is one of the stupidest ways to make money, so this Vex is either really good or just crazy. Either way, he's a perfect target. Since he has a safe house in a not so good part of town, it will be pretty dangerous to go there looking for information on your target. But since your job is life-threatening on a slow day, you head to the man's house and kill the men inside so you can see if you can find any clues on Vex's location. He isn't at the safe house, but he left a data pad behind, so you take it to Mako to see if there's anything useful on it. She gets into the device pretty fast. Unfortunately, it shows that Vex is getting ready to head off-world. You can't let him do that, so you head out to catch him at the spaceport. After you cut your way through his crew, you catch the guy at his ship, and it turns out he's not nearly as dangerous of a target as he was all cracked up to be. You finish him off, grab his ID tags to prove that you were the one who did the job, and you head back to your base to tell the others. When you get there, both Jory and Brayden are dead. Mako had been out, but when she comes back to see you standing over their corpses, she accuses you of killing them. It doesn't take long for her to realize that you offing your teammates would make absolutely no sense. But since Brayden has been like a father figure to her for years, seeing him dead has her not thinking clearly. Her and Jory had set up surveillance equipment around the room though, so there should be a recording of what actually happened. Somebody found the equipment and messed with it, but they didn't do enough damage to keep Mako from pulling up the footage. A Mandalorian named Taro Blood had shown up at your base while you were out. He's in the Great Hunt too, but it's not his first attempt. 10 years back, he'd nearly been killed by some of the Mandalorian contestants. This time he plans on stacking the deck a bit by getting rid of some of his competition beforehand. He can't do too much to the Mandalorians, but all of the freelancers can be removed if he gets creative. It's against the rules for any of the competitors to kill each other before the event starts, but he's done the next best thing, and that's taking out the other contestants' support staff so they'll be at a major disadvantage if they can get accepted at all. He's already dealt with all of the others, so the only one left to take out is your team. To make sure he's not blamed for the attack, Taro has his right-hand man set and take out Jory and Brayden. Mako wants to kill both men for what they've done, but she knows that the only way you'll be able to get close to him will be by taking part in the hunt. With Brayden dead, getting you in will be hard, especially since he spent all of their credits getting them to Hutta. So you don't have enough money to get off-world, which means it's even more important that you get Nimro to sponsor you. Mako thinks she can pick up where Brayden left off and get you a meeting with the Hutt, but you'll have to do something big to put yourself on his radar. Since a lot of his enemies have been moving into his town, if you kill a few of them, he may be willing to talk to you. It works, and Nimro gives you a chance to convince him that you're worth sponsoring. He has people he wants dead, and your job is to unalive them for him. The first on that list is an Evokai named Hutsbane, who's a part of the race that were native to the planet before the Hutt showed up. He's been raiding some of Nimro's buildings and destroying his stuff. The Hutt wants you to bring him his head. That's a little bit gruesome, but it's not all that far out of your wheelhouse, so you're cool with doing the job. The Evokai try to convince you not to kill Hutsbane, but their sob story about how cruel the Hutts are isn't all that important to you since you have your own problems to deal with. So you deal with the Evokai and take your very disgusting trophy. When you finish off Hutsbane, Mako calls you because she's got some info for you. It really was the Taro Blood who had killed Brayden. He was originally from Alderaan, but after he lost the last hunt, he spent years getting in good with the Mandalorians until he became one of them. The Great Hunt is a Mandalorian tradition, so there are different rules for them when it comes to entering. Taro has to compete with them to enter, and this time he decided to pay them so they won't gang up on him again. That means you'll probably have to go through some Mandalorians to kill him, which is never fun. While she was doing her snooping and burying her friends, Mako saw a very creepy looking alien watching her, so she wants you to be careful. With that bit of info in the back of your mind, you head back to Nimro to show him that you are as good as you claim to be. He's impressed, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have more tests for you. Fathra the Hutt has been trying to take over Nimro's territory, which has some of his people going to work for him. One of these people was Yalt, his former accountant. He's working for Fathra out in the rush yards, and Nimro wants you to put an end to all of his living. After that, he wants you to bring the man's head to his wife, since she was pushing her husband to jump ship. That's a bit more brutal than the way you normally do things, but you're not really in a position to argue, so you head off to handle your second job, which will be quite a bit more difficult than the first, since Fathra has heavy security around Yalt, and you're going to have to figure out how to get through it alive. Fathra has a lot of high-tech security and violent soldiers guarding Yalt, so it takes quite a bit of effort to get to him, but you do it, proving to yourself at least that you do deserve the reputation that Mako made up for you. Yalt obviously doesn't want to die. He didn't exactly want to turn on Nimro, but Fathra had offered him so much money that he couldn't turn it down. Unfortunately for him, the Hutt didn't pay him and instead just took him prisoner. Then he threatened to kill Yalt's wife if he didn't work for him, so he's been having a rough couple of days. Since money is a bounty hunter's primary motivation for practically anything, and you are extremely close to flat broke, You're more than willing to make a deal. Yalt is in a position to do some real damage to Fothra's bank accounts, which will make Nimrod so happy that he won't even care about Yalt not being taken out. And in the process, he can transfer some of the Hutt's credits to you. All you have to do is let him take his wife and leave the planet. Once he's proven that he's not lying about padding your bank account, you let him go and head back to Nimrod's place. One of Taro Blood's associates tries to stop you and gets put down for his trouble. As for Nimrod, he saw Fothra's accounts crash, and he's very happy with you, but he still has one more task for you to do before he sponsors you. His Beastmaster is a traitor, and he wants you to go into the Beast Pit and kill him. This is so obviously a setup that it's not even funny, but you don't have much of a choice, so you go and do it. As soon as you get in the pit, the Beastmaster sends all types of creatures after you, but they're nothing you can't handle, so you deal with them all, including their master, while Nimrod and his people watch. With that done, you head back to the hut to demand that he sponsors you for the hunt. Nimrod had expected you to die in the Beast Pit, but since you didn't, he finally lets you know that he can't sponsor you, since he's already given his sponsorship token to someone else. The Great Hunt rep will be there in a little while, and the person who gives him Nimrod's token will get the spot in the hunt. So if you were to take the token from the other guy, which won't be easy since he's very dangerous, you'll have what you need to join the hunt. Nimrod doesn't care either way, since whether you make it or the other guy, he'll still have a strong competitor in the hunt. Mako had figured out what Nimrod had done, and she's already found out who he's given the token to. She'll tell you, but she wants you to let her join you in the field. Brayden never let her do it, even though she's pretty good with a gun. Since you're not her dad, if she wants to put herself in a position to get shot at, that's totally up to her. Since you agreed to her terms, she lets you know that Nimrod gave the token to Rarsk, a very violent Trandoshan who burned down a whole village on Dantooine just to collect a single bounty. Mako intercepted a transmission between the guy who she had seen following her and Rarsk, so they might be working together. Your target is hunting a Republic officer who's got a bounty on her head. Fothra's people are holding the woman for him, so Mako wants to get to the woman first and take Rarsk out when he shows up. Getting into the Hutt's palace won't exactly be easy, but none of the stuff you've done so far has been simple anyway, so you and Mako fight your way inside and find the Republic officer. She's obviously terrified, but lucky for her, she's not your target. Rarsk shows up just like Mako said, and after you make sure he's done with all of his living, you collect your token, set the scientist free, and head back to Nimrod's place to catch the Great Hunt rep. The rep turns out to be the creepy-faced guy that Mako had seen following her, but that had been a simple misunderstanding. His name is Grata, and he had been investigating Taro Blood when he'd seen Mako. He thinks the man is trying to cheat in the hunt. He's not the person who runs the games, but he has a lot more authority than the average guy. He was waiting to tell Rarsk what he was supposed to do next, but since you've taken his spot, he tells you. Your mission is to head to Dromund Kaas and talk to the Hunt Master in the Mandalorian Enclave. He'll answer all of your questions about the Great Hunt, and he'll tell you where to go next. So now that you've gotten what you need, you head to Dromund Kaas to take part in the greatest bounty hunter competition in the galaxy. This concludes the first part of the bounty hunter origin story. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. The Empire and the Republic have somewhat of a peace going, so the Empire is taking the opportunity to send more potential Sith to Korriban to be tested. One of the overseers at the Academy is working on some plans of his own, so he summoned a very talented potential Sith to the Academy earlier than he was supposed to, and that student is you. When you arrive on Korriban, Overseer Tremel is already waiting for you on the landing pad. He's been testing people to see who's worthy of joining the Sith Order for a very long time, and he does this by putting them through trials on the planet Korriban. The people that aren't cut out for it die, and those who live become Sith. It's a very wasteful way of finding the best candidates in my opinion, but who am I to judge? Trumel brought you to the planet early for a reason, and if his plans are going to work, you have to follow his every command. If you do, he's pretty confident that you'll become the most powerful student on the planet. That is, if you can avoid being killed by Vimrin. Right now, he's the top student, and he's not going to take too kindly to you being there. Trumel expects him to confront you soon, so he figures you'll need a better weapon than the one that you had. That means for your first trial, he sends you into the tomb of the ancient Sith Ajunta Paul. There's supposed to be an ancient Sith warblade in the armory there, and if you can make it past all of the obstacles in the tomb, you'll be one step closer to becoming a true Sith. When you get your hands on the blade, a lot of droids wake up and attack you. They were likely set there to test anyone who took it, so you prove yourself worthy of having it by killing the droids. Then you head back to the Academy to see what Trumel has planned for you next. When you get back to the Academy, you come face to face with Vimrin. The man was obviously waiting around so he could see Tremel's secret weapon. And because the popular kids always have a dumber, less talented lackey, Vimrin isn't waiting for you alone. He can sense how powerful you are, so he can understand why Trummel brought you there in the first place, but he thinks the old man waited too long before making his move. Vimren's had too much time to get a foothold at the academy, so he doesn't think you'll be able to take his place. Dolgus, his big and not so bright ally, thinks it'll be better to just kill you, but there are rules at the academy, and outright murder isn't allowed. If they're caught, that is. That just means they'll try to kill you when no one's looking. After they throw a few more threats at you, they leave, and you finally get to go to Trummel's office. His daughter's there, and she wants to know why he sent you to get your warblade when she had to wait 6 months to get hers. He's not going to tell her what his plans are, but he does warn her that it'll be bad if she tells anyone that he's pushing you through the ranks faster than he should, so he wants her to keep her mouth shut. She agrees to do that, probably because Sith have a habit of offing people who don't listen to them. Trummel heard Vimren talking to you, and while the fact that the man didn't outright try to kill you means that he doesn't realize how big of a threat you are, it still bothers Trummel that the man is already paying attention to you. That means he has less time than he thought to get his plans in motion. The Sith have been making a push to get more numbers, so they've lowered the requirements for getting into the academy. Vimren's not a pure-blooded Sith, so Trummel doesn't want him to advance any further, otherwise he'll weaken the Order. The Sith are supposed to be the best, meaning only the pure-blooded Sith are supposed to be a part of the Order as far as Trummel sees it. The bad news is Vimren's gotten the attention of Darth Barris, a high-ranking Sith Lord, and the man is on the road to becoming his apprentice. Being the apprentice of someone like Barris would give that person a whole lot of influence. If it's the wrong person, it could ruin the Order. Trummel wants you to get that position, meaning you need to finish your trials fast. He already has your next one set up. There are some prisoners in the jails in the academy, and he wants you to decide some of their fate so he can see your problem-solving ability. Because everyone at the Sith Academy is at least somewhat sadistic. When you reach the prison, the guard is tormenting a Twi'lek by electrocuting her with a shock collar. Granted, that's not enough to make her shut up. Lucky for her, she's not one of the prisoners you've been sent to cast judgment on. None of them are overly important, but Trummel is impressed with how you dealt with them. That's a good thing, because if Darth Barris notices you and you don't live up to his standards, he'll kill you. That's all the more reason for Trummel to get you through your trial, so Barris will be less inclined to murder you. There's a beast in the tomb of Mark Aragnos that he left there to guard his treasure. Trummel wants you to go there and draw it out and kill it for your next test. The thing's not weak, so he doesn't expect it to be easy, but when it does attack you, you take it down without all that much effort. With that done, you head back to the academy and run right into Dolgus. He catches you in a spot where there are no witnesses so he can kill you. Now that wouldn't have been a bad idea if he was actually strong. Since he's not, all he does is get himself killed. That's not the only problem that you have though. When you get back to Trummel, he lets you know that killing the beast in that tomb has had some unforeseen consequences. It apparently had a lot of dark side energy stored in it, so when you killed it, Darth Barris felt it, and now he wants to see you. This could be very good for you, or you could end up very dead. Either way, you don't have a choice but to go and see the man. Apparently, other people have been noticing your impressive actions, and you've managed to gain a few admirers. They're willing to do anything to get on your good side, so you send them to kill Vimren. It's only fair since he sent his lackey after you. Darth Barris is in a meeting with a few acolytes, including Vimren, when you get there, so you wait. Vimren's surprised that you're still alive, but he promises that he won't underestimate you the next time he tries to kill you, if Barris doesn't do it himself. The Sith Lord sees the man talking to you, and he notices that you don't exactly seem to have any respect for him. Vimren has worked hard to earn his place, but you haven't. You were supposed to have to leave the planet for both the prisoners that you questioned and to find a powerful beast to kill. The trials are supposed to go at a very specific pace to hone the student's mind. And since you haven't even been taught the code of the Sith, it's clear that you've missed quite a few very important lessons. Since you do have a lot of power, Barris decides to take over your training, and the first thing he wants you to do is go and kill Trummel. The man's been making mistakes, so it's time for him to go, and Barris wants you to bring his hand back to him as proof. It's not like you and Trummel were friends or anything, so the assignment isn't one you're reluctant to do. If you can, that is. Trummel doesn't think you can actually beat him, but even if he wins, Barris will have undone all of his plans by making him kill his own secret weapon. He doesn't have to worry about that part because it turns out that you're more than a match for him. While he didn't exactly want to die, he is happy to know that you did have the power to deal with Vimren and push the Sith into a proper future. Once you take your former teacher's hand back to Barris, he gives you your first official test. There are some very old writings scattered around Twi'lek Horde's tomb, and he wants you to go and collect them for him. He sent Vimren and other acolytes to do the same, and he didn't say that there was any rule against just waiting around for someone else to collect the writings and stealing them from them. So it's very likely that someone will try that since going through the tombs of Dark Jedi are pretty dangerous. The task is easy for you, and when you get back, the students who didn't manage to make it through the tomb think that they have a better chance to rob you. Since they think the person who can make it through a tomb of the Dark Jedi is weaker than the actual threats inside of it, you help them finish with all of their living and head back to Barris. The only other Alkalite who succeeded at the trial was Vimran. Both of you have proved yourself to be worthy candidates for his apprentice, but only one of you can get the spot. At first he'd settled on Vimran, but he's changed his mind and decides to pick you for the simple fact that you're stronger. Vimran's obviously not happy about that, but there's not exactly anything he can do about it, so he leaves while Barris gives you your final test. There's an old lightsaber hidden in the tomb of Naga Sadow, and he wants you to go and find it. It's in a room that has a secret entrance that no one knows how to find except for one person, and that's the Twi'lek that's locked up in the academy. When they had caught her, she was in the process of breaking into the room, so the only way you'll find it is if you take her with you and get her to cooperate. This particular tomb will be full of other Alkalites who are on their last trial for other masters, and the rule against killing other academy members doesn't exist there, so that means the test will be a lot more dangerous than the other ones. The Twi'lek's name is Vet, and she's more than willing to help you if it stops the prison guard from electrocuting her. Granted, if she doesn't listen to you, you'll do the same thing, but at least she can get out of her cage. She keeps her word and shows you how to get to the hidden room, but as a surprise to no one at all, Vimran tries to kill you and take your place. All that does is give you a chance to finish him off before you retrieve the lightsaber. As soon as you touch the thing, a lot of spirits try to murder you, which gives you a chance to test out your new weapon before you head back to Barris. Apparently, Trummel's daughter heard that you killed her dad, and she tries to get revenge because she's not all that smart either. After you finish her off and talk to Barris, he's happy to fully accept you as his apprentice. And as for your first task in your new position, he wants you to meet him on Dromund Kaas, and that's where your real work will begin. The Empire and the Galactic Republic have come to a truce for the time being, but since the Empire knows that it won't last, they've started to hunt for allies in the neutral systems. One of the planets that they're trying to add to their ranks is Hutta, but the crime lords that run the place are refusing to take sides in the war, since it's more profitable to stay neutral and do dealings with both sides. The whole neutrality thing doesn't really benefit the Empire, so they've decided to send in one of their operatives, that's you, to help draw the world into an alliance with them. Once you touch down on the planet and make your way past a very lax customs check, you contact Keeper, the man in charge of your operation. Nimro the Hutt and his organization run the city of Jaguna, and your job is to get him to supply the Empire. The town produces a lot of different types of goods, from weapons to raw materials, and Nimro sells them everywhere. Keeper thinks he's been trying to avoid losing Republic support by openly supporting the Empire, but that needs to change. Hutts aren't exactly easy to manipulate though, so you'll have to work your way into his clan's inner circle, get in good with his advisors, and learn the best way to get the Hutt to do what you want while making it seem like it was in his best interest. An alien named Jeeg has already set up a cover story for you to help you get this process underway. He's waiting for you in a nearby safe house to fill you in, so you head off to meet him. Jeeg is going to have you impersonate a well-known but extremely mysterious pirate known as the Red Blade. This pirate is so well disguised that few people know what race, species, or gender it is, so it's the perfect cover for you. Jeeg has spread the rumor that the Blade is coming to the palace to do business with Nimro, which gives you a way in. The real Blade is currently doing some work in the Outer Rim, so the odds of the person you're pretending to be showing up is almost zero, so that won't be a problem. There is one small issue though. Jeeg had some items shipped to the world for you to give to Nimro as a gift, but a gang of dangerous people stole it. Since he likes his life, Jeeg didn't try to stop them, but he did see the entire thing. He knows where they took your stuff, and if you want it back, you'll have to deal with them, so you head off to do just that. When you get back to Jeeg, he checks to make sure you got everything before he calls Keeper to let him know that his part of the mission is done. There's nothing more for him to do, so he heads off to wait for his next set of orders while Keeper gives you your next task. You'll introduce yourself to Nimro and give him the gifts that you got as a way to get on his good side. One of the items has been fitted with something that will let Keeper listen to all of the conversations in the palace. From there, you'll do whatever the Hutt needs so you can get closer to his inner circle, since even if you can't get him to join the Empire, you may be able to get one of his lieutenants to come over to your side, which will be nearly as good. When you get to the palace, Nimro's people are already expecting you, and one of his top men, Karos Javis, gives you the rules on meeting Nimro before you head in. They're more to keep you safe than the Hutt, since if you break any of them, you will be shot quite a few times. The first thing the Hutt wants to see is whether or not your gifts are a worthy tribute, and once Karos goes through them, you get permission to stay in the palace and do business on the planet. He introduces you to his other top guy, a Twi'lek named Tolthazin, but he doesn't get the chance to do much more than that because Father the Hutt and his clan have attacked another one of Nimro's shipments, and he's not happy about it. An unhappy Hutt isn't the most rational of beings, so Karos takes you to the side to give you a little more info about their organization before he sends you to your rooms. He's been working for Nimrod since his old gang got killed by the Hutt when he was 13. And even though he doesn't necessarily like the way the Hutt operates all the time, being a part of Nimrod's crew is one of the best jobs on the planet. Right now, they've been having an issue with another Hutt named Fathra, and since the Hutt cartel won't step in and stop the conflict, things have been tense in Nimrod's palace. While the Hutts are all criminals, there are rules to the game, and the cartel said that Nimrod and Fathra are supposed to only operate in their own territories. Fathra's been ignoring those rules, which means Nimrod's top people have been working overtime figuring out how to deal with him. Karos has to get back to it, but he does plan on talking to you later. After heading to your room and getting rid of all of the listening devices the gang put in there to spy on you, you call Keeper to let him know that you've completed phase 1 of your mission. He's already aware of that since his transmitters have started sending him signals from all throughout the palace. Imperial intelligence has figured out that Karos is the best person to target as someone who can be brought over to the Empire, since he's fallen slightly out of favor with Nimrod and he doesn't seem all that hostile to the Empire. The Hutt's been blaming Karos for not fixing the problem with Fathra, so Keeper wants you to offer to help the man deal with this problem so he can get back on the Hutt's good side. The mission's importance has gone up a bit since a Sith named Darth Jadus has started to take interest in it. He's a member of the Dark Council that only answers to the Emperor, which basically means that you'll end up very dead if you fail, so you head back to Karos to get back to work. On the way there, you run into a guy named Dano who, in a very bad twist of fate, actually knows the Red Blade, so he knows that you aren't him. Since keeping your secret is the only way to stay alive, and the only way that two people can keep a secret is if one of them is in a box, you deal with the guy before getting back to Karos. Karos proves that Keeper was right about him when he starts asking you questions about what it's like to do business with the Empire. He's not asking you that because he's figured out that you're one of their spies, but because the blade has worked for the Empire a time or two. After you give him a totally non-biased glowing review, he lets you know that he's pretty sure that it won't be long before the Empire and the Republic both start trying to get control of Hutta, and he wants to start weighing his options even though Nimrod doesn't. The fact that his sons are off currently doing some business with the Empire is also playing a big part in his curiosity. Still, he has other stuff on his mind. Nimrod's been upset with him ever since a shipment of rare ores got lost in the Evokai lands. He doesn't know why the Hutt blames him for it, but it is what it is. The Evokai have been on the planet long before the Hutts got there, and they hate them for very obvious reasons. Karos wants you to go and get the ore back for him, a job he'll pay you very well for. He could send his people, but dealing with the Evokai on their own turf isn't exactly easy. The ones who didn't want to fight the Hutts made a deal with Nimrod, and they live in a work camp outside of Jaguna. Even Karos thought they were stupid for trying to make a deal with the Hutt, but they did it anyway. Their chief was supposed to try to get the ore back since he clearly knows who took it, but he hasn't shared any useful information, so you go to see if you can get him to talk by doing something that none of Nimrod's people seem to be capable of doing, asking him nicely. Odef is positive that one of the other tribes took the ore, but they refuse to give it back. They took the stuff specifically to spite Nimrod and to make weapons so they can better kill the Hutt's people. They have their materials in their village in the swamp, so you can try to take them back if you want, but Odef thinks there are easier ways to offer yourself than trying to get into that village. So you prove him wrong by going reclaim the ore yourself before heading back to Karos. When you get back to the palace, a very creepy looking woman named Kaleo, who's been watching you for a while, finally decides to talk to you. She works for Nimrod, and her job is to keep the palace safe so the Hutt doesn't have to worry about his enemies getting into the building. She doesn't suspect that you aren't the real Blade, but she does think that you're up to something, and she will find out what it is, which means there's a very good chance that she'll find out who you really are and jeopardize your mission. So very soon you may have to add her to the growing list of people you've made disappear in your service to the Empire. When you get back to Karos, he's in the middle of a conversation with Tothlixen about how Fathra is trying to steal their gas reserves, which Karos sees as a much bigger problem than his coworker does. The conversation ends when you walk up, since Toth refuses to discuss company business in front of an outsider. The whole thing is giving Karos a headache, but the fact that you managed to recover his shipment from the Evokai, which will get him back in Nimrod's good graces, has him very happy, at least on that part. And he's more than a little eager to work with you again, which is exactly the point of all of this. Keeper has been watching everything that you've done, and even though you've been doing well, he wants you to watch Kaleo because she will probably be a real problem. She's a freelance assassin among other things, and she changes names and employers more than most people change underwear, which means she's not all that loyal to Nimrod, so you may be able to use her. But Kaleo is a secondary problem. Nimrod owns a gas mine on Hutta, and the Empire wants access to what he produces. Unfortunately, Fathra's been stealing some of Nimrod's gas, so you need to destroy his operation out in the rust yards to make him stop cutting into Nimrod's profit. If Fathra was able to refine the gas the way that could be used in the explosives that the Empire wanted, they would just do business with him. But since he can't and they need Nimro, Keeper wants you to blow up Fathra's equipment so he won't be able to steal the gas. Getting into the facility won't be the simplest task, but after you steal one of the guards' uniforms and their credentials, you manage to get inside and put an end to Fathra's sabotage. When you get back to Nimro's place, Karos has already heard about the explosion in the rush yards, and he had a feeling that you had something to do with it. He knows Fathra will retaliate, but he's gonna make sure Nimro's ready for it. When you make it back to your room to report to Keeper, there are a few people there who are definitely not supposed to be. Someone paid them to put some listening devices in your room, but since you caught them, they try to kill you instead, which turns out to be a very unwise decision. Once they've stopped breathing, you contact Keeper to let him know about your progress with Nimro's people. It turns out that some things haven't gone the way they were supposed to. A few days ago, Carol's sons ran into a Sith apprentice out in Imperial space, and one of his sons was killed while the other one was messed up pretty badly. Considering how close Carol's is to his kids, it is highly unlikely that he'll still be up for working with the Empire once he finds out, so now he's become a problem. Keeper has a way of fixing the situation though, but first you'll have to kill Carol's. The man has some very high-tech security systems guarding his room, but Keeper sends you some tools that'll shut it all down and let you do the deed without leaving behind a paper trail, one that leads to you at least. The security jamming equipment is Republic issue, so when Nimro's people find it, they'll think that the Republic killed Carol's. Tothlazin is already expecting Fathra to try and get revenge for what happened to his mining operation, so you are going to make it look like the Republic helped him take out Carol's. Since you were working with Carol's against Fathra, Tothlazin won't suspect you, and he'll likely be willing to accept your help to get revenge for his dead friend. There's more to the plan, but Keeper will tell you about it after you deal with Carol's, since nothing ever goes according to plan and things might change last minute. Fortunately, taking down Carol's in secret isn't all that difficult, and Tothlazin is more than eager to get your help hunting down the killers. He thinks Fathra had help from the Republic, and he wants you to find out who, because if he did, then Nimro will need to make a deal with the Empire to balance things out. He wants you to use your contacts to get the information that he needs, which is perfect since that was what you were going to do anyway, just not in the way that he thinks. So you head back to your room to talk to Keeper about the next phase of the plan. Unfortunately, Khalil is already waiting for you in your room, and unlike Tothlazin, she knows that you killed Carol's. Oddly enough, she's not there to snitch on you. She knows you're working on something way more important than Nimro, and she wants to be a part of it. Keeper's been listening to the entire conversation, and he already knows way more about Khalil and her very shady past than you would expect, which is why he's perfectly fine with hiring her. You don't have a problem with that since it beats the alternative of having her try to ruin your mission. The next part of your assignment is to steal a holodisc from Fathra's palace that has a record of all of his business dealings. And once you do that, you're going to alter it to show him meeting with some Republic officers. There's a lot that can go wrong if Nimro's people find out that what you're going to give them is an edited video, but Keeper thinks it's worth the risk, so you and Khalil head out to do the incredibly difficult job of breaking into Fathra's palace. The good news is Khalil's been there before, so she helps guide you through the place. The bad news is there are a lot of people there guarding it that the two of you have to deal with. Khalil is positive that once Nimro's people see who Fathra's been doing business with, a lot of people aren't going to make it. That's not your problem since you'll be long gone when the real violence starts, so you take your info back to Toth. Nimro reacts exactly how Keeper hopes and starts making moves to do some deals with the Empire. Your work on Hutta is done, and he has a shuttle waiting for you to bring you to Dromund Kaas. When you get there, you'll be getting your next assignment. On your way to the ship, you get a call from Jeeg, and he has some not so good news for you. The actual Red Blade is about to land on Hutta, and if he starts talking, everything you've done will be ruined. So you do the only logical thing, and that's catch him at the landing site, hit him until he's done with all of his living, then get off of the planet before anything else can go wrong. This concludes the prologue for the Imperial Agent storyline. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. When you get to the Imperial fleet on your trip to Dromund Kaas, Crystal Markon, the woman you're supposed to meet there, has set up passage for you on the Black Talon, a very fast Imperial transport ship. Since you want to get to the planet as soon as possible, you hop aboard even though the ship does pass through some not so safe locations. When you arrive, Lieutenant Silas is there to greet you, and she claims to have your droid in the conference room waiting for you. The only problem is you don't have a droid, so the thing asking for you by name is a bit weird. It's pretty obvious someone wants to talk to you, so you go to see this droid. The droid, NR-02, was sent by Grand Moff Kilran, the commander of the Imperial 5th Fleet, specifically to get in touch with you. He needed some help with the mission, so he had his droid go through the ship's passenger logs just to see who was on board with the necessary skills. With you being a very accomplished bounty hunter, you fit in well with what he needs. 6 hours ago, the Republic got into a very illegal border skirmish very close to Imperial territory. They lost the battle, but one of their warships, the Bruntal Star, escaped. It's carrying a passenger that Kilren once captured, and the Black Talon is the only ship close enough to do the job. The person he wants is called the General, and the Republic thinks he knows some Imperial secrets. Kilren needs the man caught or killed, but Captain Orzik, the man who's in control of the Black Talon, doesn't think the General is worth the trouble, so he disobeyed Kilren's order to attack. He wants you to deal with him, take over the ship, find the Bruntal Star, and deal with the General. He says all of this like it's supposed to be easy, but it definitely won't be. However, since your only choice is to do the job or make an enemy of the Empire, you head off to complete your mission. The soldiers aren't just gonna let you take over their ship, so using quite a few blaster bolts and explosives, you clear a path to the bridge so you can have a conversation with the captain. He knew Kilren wouldn't like him disobeying his orders, but he hadn't expected the man to get someone to take over the ship. He didn't simply disobey for no reason. The Black Talon is a good ship, but it's not a match for the Bruntal Star. Going after it would be a suicide mission, and he's not exactly up for killing his crew for no reason. Lucky for him, not all bounty hunters are bloodthirsty killers, unless they're paid to be, so you don't kill him, and even though you were good enough to take over the ship, the Star is an entirely different animal. He might be able to get close enough to it for you to board the thing, but then you'd have to fight through an army of Republic soldiers to find the General. It does sound bad, but Kilren hasn't really given you all that much of a choice, so you're either going to get killed by the Republic or Kilren. Since you and Orzik are in the same boat, and the captain isn't ready to get labeled a traitor just yet, he takes his ship into battle against the Bruntal Star. The battle does not start off well, especially since the Republic sends a boarding party that you have to deal with. You manage to keep them from taking over the ship from the inside, but the space battle isn't exactly going in your favor. Things get even worse when a call comes through from Jedi Grandmaster Satele Shan herself. She's not on the Star, which is fortunate for you, because you'd have a better chance of surviving if you just tossed yourself out of an airlock naked. But she is on her way there with 16 Republic ships. She's giving you this one chance to retreat because if you're still there when she shows up, she's going to blow you out of the sky. The Star was under her protection, and she sent it off ahead of them when they got attacked, which is the complete opposite of what Kilren said happened. But it's not a surprise that an Imperial commander would lie, nor does it change the fact that he will off you if you don't complete the mission. Since Satele has no intention of letting you take the General, you have to be done before she gets there. Not wasting any more time with planning, since there's no way to make this mission any easier, you join a boarding party and invade the Star. Once you're on board, your droid finds the General, and it turns out that the Republic is trying to evacuate him. You can't let that happen, so you and the soldiers you were given for backup fight your way to where the General is. He's being protected by a young Padawan who, fortunately for you, is nowhere near as skilled as a full Jedi Knight, which lets you join the ranks of the non-Force users who have taken down a Jedi. With her out of the way, you finally get your hands on the General who got hurt when your ship attacked, but he'll live. He wishes he hadn't, because he really doesn't want to see how bad the galaxy will be once the war between the Empire and the Republic picks back up. Not with what he knows is coming. Both sides have upgraded their weapons during their brief truce, and when the fighting starts back up again, both sides will be capable of destroying entire planets, and they both have people who are willing to do it. That's a bit above your pay grade, plus your world's gonna end anyway if you don't bring him in, so you take him back to the Talon and get out of there before the Republic reinforcements show up and wipe you all out. This concludes the story of the Black Talon Flashpoint. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, comment, share it, and subscribe. Grab a copy of my novel on your way out, and I'll see you all next time. The war between the Jedi and the Sith isn't exactly going well for the Jedi. The Sith destroyed their temple on Coruscant and forced them to run away, so they've headed back to their homeworld on Tython to get back to their roots, regroup, and rebuild. A new Padawan, that's you, is on the way to Tython to finish his trials and do his part to strengthen the Jedi Order. As soon as your ship lands on the planet, you get welcomed by a member of the Jedi Council named C.O. Bakarn, which is a little out of the ordinary since council members don't usually show up to greet new students. But considering the fact that your potential is far beyond that of the average Padawan, C.O. wanted to see you in person. Your new teacher will be a Jedi Master named Yuan, who left her dig site specifically to train you. But she's late. That's not like her, so that means something is probably wrong. She confirms that it is once she finally gets there. Tython has a lot of old Jedi relics on it, and some of the researchers have found some hologram projectors meant to teach young Jedi. They hold records from the founders of the Jedi Order, which means they can't be replaced if something happens to them. Unfortunately, something might happen because a whole lot of flesh raiders are destroying stuff in the area. Someone needs to go out and retrieve the projectors before something happens to them, and Yuan wants that to be your first bit of training. C.O. doesn't think that's a good idea, But since you were stronger in the Force at 4 years old than Yuan was at 15, she thinks you can handle the mission. Of course, you're up to the challenge, and you head out to complete your first task. The holograms are made by the founders of the Jedi, and while you get 3 of them, someone had already stolen one, which is not something that the Wild Flesh Raiders would have done. That means someone else stole the thing. Yuan's gonna get to work on finding out who actually did it, and she wants you to meet her at the Jedi Temple. When you get there, Yuan is talking to a Trandoshan named Kizan Fess. He's a friend of hers who's in the area for a hunting expedition, which is very important to his people. They've been friends for a while, but not too many people actually approve of their friendship, not even the other Jedi. But she wanted you to meet him before anyone told you bad things about him that weren't true. After the Lizard Man heads off, Yuan lets you know that the hologram that was stolen was one from the Jedi Master Rajavari. He was one of the members of the first Jedi Council, and he was the first one to turn to the dark side. There's not much information on him, but from what Yuan knows, he was extremely powerful. The thing that was stolen could hold some of his secrets, which won't really be all that good in the wrong hands. That means you need to find it quickly. Yuan thinks it had to have been taken by the Twi'leks that are living in Kalikori Village. They're poor and pretty much have to do anything that they can to survive, which means if they did take it, they probably won't be all that eager to give it back, and that means you'll have to be very persuasive. That'll be even harder than usual since the Republic doesn't want the Twi'leks on the planet at all, and because of that, they've forbidden the Jedi from helping them in any way, even when they're being attacked by the Flesh Raiders. So they probably really don't like any of you. But you head over there anyway to talk to Bashen, the captain of the village's guard. As expected, the people of the village are not all that happy to see you, but when you tell them you were sent by Yuan, they open up to you a little bit. Out of all of the people on Tython, she apparently has been willing to help the villagers from time to time. Turns out a Twi'lek named Naylan Relak had found the projector and took it. The man is somewhat of a hero to the villagers. He saved a lot of their lives, sets their defenses up against the Flesh Raiders, and is pretty much the reason why they are able to live in even slight comfort. So they're not all that willing to tell a Jedi where he is, since there's only so far that they trust you. However, once you tell them that the data in the hologram might actually be dangerous, they tell you where he is mainly because if a Jedi thinks something is dangerous, it's probably very dangerous for regular folks. Naylan's out in Flesh Raider territory, likely at a camp that he set up, so you head out there to try to find him. You find his camp in the heart of Flesh Raider territory, and he does have the projector. He says he goes to the area to think, and he wants to know why you're bothering him since he's not exactly in a place that anyone will wander into by accident. When you tell him that the villagers told you where to find him, he has no doubt that they also told you all about how he's supposedly their hero and all of that. But he doesn't really think he can claim that title until he's gotten rid of the monsters that attack his people for good. And he can't exactly do that until he's finished his own training. See, he's been hunting for the Jedi relics that are scattered around Tython too, and he's been using them to train himself in the ways of the Force, which is pretty impressive to be honest. But once he's mastered his new powers, he plans on forcing everyone other than his people off of the planet. That way they can finally live in peace. The things he's learned from the fallen Jedi Rajavari has made him pretty confident that he'll be able to do it. And he proves just how strong he's become in the Force by causing the cave you're in to start collapsing, for the sole purpose of burying the Flesh Raiders alive. Since you're not exactly a fan of dying along with them, you grab the projector and book it out of the cave and back to the Jedi Temple. When you get back to Yuan, you let her know about Naylan and how he's learned to use the Force from watching Rajavari's hologram. She finds that to be impressive too, but apparently the training has also made his mind a little bit unstable. That makes Yuan even more curious about what information was on the thing, so the two of you fire it up and watch. Turns out the Jedi left some information about something Yuan calls the Fount of Rajavari. When he had died, some people claimed that he had made a place that held all of his knowledge. Jedi looked for it for a long time, but they never actually found anything, so it eventually got written off as some nonsense. But since the fallen Jedi confirmed its existence out of his own mouth, that pretty much changes things. The problem is Naylan heard the same thing that you did, and he's likely looking for the Fount at that very moment, which means you need to beat him to it. The hologram left a hint saying to follow where the first blade points from the Sanctuary of Order, which Yuan thinks might be a place called Kaleth. It's a ruined fortress that was destroyed during a very big battle, and there are plenty of droids just wandering around the place, meaning it's still pretty dangerous. What she doesn't understand is the whole first blade thing. Normally when a Jedi talks about a blade, they usually mean lightsabers, but since the laser sword hadn't been invented yet, that's not possible. Either way, Yuan thinks stopping Naylan will be good training for you, so it's off to Kaleth you go. The first thing you see that draws your attention is an odd rock with some words that you can't read on it. But a very old droid shows up and lets you know that the first blade is there and he's the one who guards it. It was made by a man who saw the Jedi as warriors, not scholars, and he made the original Jedi weapon that would eventually become the lightsaber. The first blade is worn away over time, and now the only thing that's left is the hilt. There was only one Jedi who actually proved himself worthy enough to take it, and that was Rajavary. After he took it, he eventually brought it back for some reason that the droid doesn't know, and he doesn't exactly care. He just knows that if you want to take the hilt, you'll have to prove yourself in combat. The weapon master left some training droids behind so his students could actually test themselves physically, and the old droid sends you off to fight them. Once you've dealt with them, they send a report back to the old droid to let it know that you proved yourself to be a worthy warrior. So the droid gives you the first blade. The hilt's been altered a bit, and it has markings on it that are designed to store information, so it looks like the sword hilt is actually a weird flash drive full of information that you have no idea how to access. But you found it before Nayland, so you call Yuan to let her know. It makes sense to her that the hilt would be a storage device, since Rajavary said that the blade will act as a guide. She'll figure out how to get the information off of the thing, so it's time for you to head back to the temple. When you get back to the temple, you run into Master Seal again, along with another Jedi Master named Jarek. They've heard about Nayland and his hunt for Rajavary's secrets, and they've heard about how Yuan thinks that the Force is guiding you on the path after him. They've heard of the Force doing that before, but blindly trusting the Force isn't the Jedi way either. Just following it without using common sense could lead to some not so good outcomes, which makes it a terrible way for a master to train their apprentice. The fact that Yuan is letting the Force train you without any guidance, and she's bringing a Trandoshan into the temple, has the other two masters questioning her methods and her sanity. The council has voted to let her keep doing what she's doing for a while longer, but they're worried that it might end bad for you. Your mission is important, but not at the expense of your life. They leave you with that cryptic warning and you go to meet with Yuan, who's talking to Kizan. When she sees the hilt that you brought, she says that it really does look like a prototype lightsaber. Rajavary's hologram said that the hilt needs to be brought to a cave in the mountains, a cave that just so happens to be the spot where the founders of the Jedi Order became the first council. Kizan actually knows about that cave. It's full of flesh raiders, so he wants to come with you since it'll give him a chance to do a bit of hunting. Hunting powerful creatures is a primary tenet of his religion, so it makes sense why he'd be so eager to go with you. And you obviously won't mind the extra muscle, so you head off. The cave is in fact full of flesh raiders that you have to cut a path through, something Kizan says earns you a lot of points with this god, the scorekeeper. Basically, depending on how good of a hunter someone is, that determines their place in the afterlife, and you don't have to actually believe in the scorekeeper for her to keep track of your points. That's all interesting, but it's irrelevant at the moment. The only thing that matters is finding the second clue to the fount of Rajavary, and it has something to do with the 3 giant monuments at the back of the cave. Unfortunately, the words on them have faded over time, so they're pretty hard to make out. Kizan notices that the bones piled up in front of the monument don't seem to be there on accident, and that's not something the flesh raiders would have done. So you push them out of the way and you find a small machine that has an opening that's the perfect size for the hilt you found to fit in. Before you can see what will happen when you put it in, a group of Twi'leks from Nayland's village show up. Nayland sent them to take the first blade from you, since he needs it if he's going to keep protecting their village. When you refuse to give it to them, they attack you because for some reason they think they could actually beat a Jedi. You prove them wrong, then you use the hilt on the machine, which makes a hologram of Rajavary appear. He says that the Jedi Council did form in that cave, and that was where he heard his friend's plan for the Order. And he also realized that their plan would have their group be weak and useless. So he decided to make an army and get rid of the council. That way he and his apprentices would transform the Jedi into what they needed to be. The proof that he succeeded in his mission would be if he put the hilt of the first blade back where he found it. Since you actually have the blade, that means he must have succeeded. You making it as far as you have means you're meant to find the fount, and the hologram reveals a map showing you where it is. The map isn't exactly easy to figure out, so you head back to Yuan to see if she can help you figure out where to go. The map points to some caves that Kizan has been to on some of his hunts. He had never actually been looking for any ancient Jedi ruins on his other trips there, but since he knows what he's looking for, he figures that he'll be able to find the place for you. You offer to go with him, but he's pretty sure that he can search better on his own, so he leaves you and Yuan there to keep studying Rajavary's hologram. It's a good thing that you did because there's a message saying that the fount of Rajavary is booby-trapped, and only someone who follows the fallen Jedi's path will make it through. The problem is you have no idea what Rajavary's path was, which means you'll have to figure it out. Yuan figures that you can find that information on some of the computers that were found out in the Kaleth Fortress, since that place was Rajavary's base. The computers are all password protected. However, the hilt of the first blade might give you access to those computers too, so it's worth a shot. It works, and the computers reveal the final logs of Rajavari's apprentices. Apparently, the Jedi Council survived his attack and they were coming after his people. Since their master died in the battle, they knew they were going to share his fate, but Rajavari taught them to never show mercy, so they planned on taking as many Jedi with them as they could. They brought down a lot of them by being brutal and violent, which is pretty much the way the Sith operate, so Rajavari's path is basically being a selfish, power-hungry, violent dick. Not sure how that'll help you get past the traps, but you head back to the temple to let Yuan know what you learned. She's impressed that Rajavari had trained students who were strong enough to hold off the Jedi Council, even though it was only for a little while, but the history lesson is not as important as getting to the fount. But for some reason, Kizan hasn't made it back yet. He's had more than enough time to carry out his search, so you head out to the caves to look for him. You find him locked in a cell in one of the caves. Nayland had apparently followed him and tortured him for information on the location of the fount. He wishes the man had killed him after because there's no greater dishonor in his religion than being captured alive. All the points he's earned with his god throughout his entire life has been lost with that one failure. Even in the face of that, he didn't tell the man where the fount was, not until Yuan showed up and asked him for the information herself. The thing is, Yuan never left the Jedi Temple. Nayland had used the Force to make Kizan think that he was talking to her so he could get the information, which means you need to hurry if you want to catch him. Kizan has no problem guiding you there, mainly because he wants to see Nayland die for tricking him. The Fount's traps are actually a series of tests meant to see what type of Jedi you are, and if you prove to be the wrong type, things will probably go badly for you. You pass the test and come face to face with Rajavari himself. He's obviously dead, but his Force ghost is still hanging around. He's not surprised to see you there. Nayland actually beat you there, and Rajavari figured that someone would be after the man, but he's gone now. Rajavari had refused to become one with the Force because the Jedi were imperfect, but in his lab he had made some machines that could give one apprentice decades worth of experience in a day. That way he or she could carry on his mission and he would finally be able to fade away. He had thought that Nayland would be that apprentice, but the Twi'lek didn't make it through the traps with his mind intact. Granted, the man was crazy in the first place, so he was obviously only going to get worse. Rajavari admits that that's his fault. Nayland didn't have the mental capacity to handle the knowledge that he got, so he never should have tried to turn him into his heir, but he did, and instead of remaking the Jedi into something great, Nayland wants to wipe them all out, and he plans on starting by destroying the forge where the Jedi make their lightsabers. Rajavari wants you to stop the psycho because his goal was never the end of the Jedi, he just wanted to make them stronger. He figures you'll need a real weapon if you plan on beating Nayland, and since you're carrying around the hilt of the very first blade, a crystal from the caves by the forge and a little bit of work at the forge itself will give you a working lightsaber that you can use to stop Nayland. He tells you how to get to the forge, and after that you point out that he inadvertently completed his mission of making the Jedi stronger when he forced the Jedi to go to war with him. The ones who weren't strong enough died, but the ones who beat him and his followers proved themselves to be true warriors. When he realizes that what you said is true, he finally becomes one with the Force and fades away, leaving you to continue the mission. The first step is to get your lightsaber crystal, which is guarded by a not-so-nice monster. Then you make your way to the forge and craft your weapon while Kizan stands watch. You finish the weapon right when Nayland shows up with a few of his people. He plans on killing you and destroying the forge. Granted, the people he brought with him aren't fully on board with the man, but they follow his lead, so you beat them all up without killing them. Instead, you plan on bringing him back to the Jedi Temple and letting them judge him. Seeing how you handle that situation, Kizan starts to believe that you're actually a herald of the scorekeeper and he'll follow you anywhere and help however he can. Apparently, you don't have to worship the scorekeeper to earn that title, which is good because it gained you a very useful ally. You've saved the day, so you head back to the Jedi Temple to tell them the good news. When you get back to the council and tell them what you've seen, they want to hear everything about the Fount of Rajavari. Yuan finds the fact that you saw Rajavari himself to be incredible, and despite the odd way that she trained you, the other masters have to admit that letting you go on that mission was the best training you could have possibly gotten. And since you completed everything up to crafting your own lightsaber, they think you've earned the right to graduate from being a Padawan to a full-fledged knight. And as a knight, they want to know what you would do with Nayland. There's only two things that the council can do. They can kill him, or they can train him as a Jedi. That way they can monitor him and boost their relationship between the Jedi and the villagers. They think that's a good idea, so that's the plan they'll move forward with. Things seem to have turned out well, but while she's promoting you to the rank of Jedi Knight, Yuan collapses. Apparently she's been sick for a while, but she kept it a secret. The council has no idea what's wrong with her, but it's pretty bad. They're sending her to Coruscant for treatment. The researchers there have been going through the ruins of the Jedi Temple, and they may have found some teachings that could help heal the woman. And the Masters want you to go with her to help in any way that you can, which is something that you were going to do anyway. So it's off to Coruscant you go to meet with the researcher Atros to hopefully save your Master's life before it's too late. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Donate to the channel if you can, and I'll see you all next time. The frontier systems are pretty much in chaos. The Galactic Republic is fighting to recover from its fight with the Sith, and mercenaries are capitalizing on the galaxy's dysfunction. On Ord Mantell, a civil war is going on between the citizens who are Galactic Republic supporters and the Separatists, which has made the world a profitable place for freelance traders, which is why someone hired you to deliver some weapons into the combat zone. That's something that took a lot of guts and a few missing brain cells, since Separatist ships have had a blockade around the planet attacking anyone who flies in. You wouldn't be much of a smuggler if you couldn't get through a blockade, so of course you make it down to the planet below without doing too much damage to your ship. The situation is a little bit worse than what you originally planned on flying into though, but Skavik, one of the people who you were supposed to meet, lets you know that the Separatists are invading a nearby village and they're attacking everyone who's not a part of their group. That's why the Republic sympathizers bought the blasters that you brought in. Skavik wants to get everything unloaded fast before the place gets overrun, and he figures you should get back off-world as soon as he's done. The loading dock is shaking from the explosions, so Skavik gives you the money for your delivery and goes to get started. But Corso Riggs, a guy who works with Skavik, comes running in screaming about how the Separatists have taken over one of the anti-air cannons, and they blew up a Republic transport ship. Normally, you wouldn't care all that much about that, but if the Separatists can shoot down ships, there's a good chance they'll shoot yours down too. They hacked the cannons and they're controlling them by remote, so if you don't break their remotes, then you won't be leaving the planet anytime soon. Since you don't have any other options, you head off to deal with the cannons while Skavik and Corso unload the weapons. The smuggler doesn't have a hard time taking down the towers, but she can't get into the targeting computer, so she does the only practical thing and shoots it. It works, disarming the anti-air cannons, which will let you leave the planet, so you call Corso to let him know. There's no time to celebrate because the Separatists have broken into the hangar. You make it back in time to deal with the attackers and save Corso, who got knocked out, but there's another problem. Apparently Skavik was working with the Separatists and helped them get into the hangar. And he did that to steal your ship and the weapon shipment. He even stole Corso's gun, Torchy, which he seems more upset about than anything else. Corso gives a call to his traitorous business associate, which is pretty much a waste of time because the man's not interested in making a deal with you. While it seems like the chance of getting your ship back is slim, Corso and Skavik were working for a guy named Vidu, and when he finds out that Skavik stole his guns for the Separatists, he's gonna be after the man too. So Corso thinks it'll be a good idea for you to go and talk to him. That way he can help you get your ship back. Since nothing comes to Ord Mantell without him knowing about it, Vidu will make a very good ally, so you head out to Fort Garnick to meet with the man while Corso gives him a call to let him know you're coming. Vidu is a big dude who loves the finer things in life like booze and food. He's been having a good life, but between Skavik and the Separatists, he's pretty sure that's all about to end in a very bad way. The weapons that got stolen were for a guy named Rogan the Butcher, and he's not exactly a forgiving boss. I'm pretty sure his name is a dead giveaway to that. But the bad news is, while Vidu was working for him, you were hired by Vidu, so Rogan is likely going to kill both of you if he doesn't get his merchandise. He wanted the weapons to protect his business from the Separatists, so the only way to get him to not murder you is to find Skavik and get the weapons back. Vidu has an idea about where you might be able to find him. He knows a guy named Reki who knows a lot about the Separatists and their plans. Thing is, he's trapped in a village that the Republic troops have blocked off to contain the Separatists. Vidu can get you into the village because he has connections, but you'll have to prove that you aren't a Separatist first. Then you'll actually have to convince Reki to help you. He'll be more willing to help if you get his people some supplies. Vidu's got that part covered, so if you can get the supplies to Reki, he should tell you how to find Skavik. So it's off to Talaran village you go. Since Vidu called ahead, Reki's been expecting you, and he tells you that the only place where you can find info on the individual Separatists and their particular orders is at Manit Point. He used to get a lot of supplies from there by using the 5-finger discount, so he knows a few shortcuts through some of their warehouses. He has them all mapped out, but he had to leave his maps when he fled the place due to being caught taking said discount. But he locked his house in a way that wouldn't have been easy to break through, so he's pretty sure that the maps are still there. The only way to open the door is to short out the power relays at the point. Then you can get the maps that he disguised as research notes on bird watching. It's a code, one that he's nice enough to teach you how to decipher, since reading through the boring documents and trying to figure it out would suck, and may earn him a blaster bolt to the forehead. Reki's maps will get you straight to the Separatist computer station without that much hassle, but all of their files are encrypted. Vidu will have to figure out a way to decipher them for you. Since he gave you what you needed, you hand Reki the supplies and go back to Vidu to let him know what's happening. When you get back to the fort, you're stopped by Serena, one of Vidu's people. She's heard about the whole incident with Skavik, and she expected something like that to happen since she told Vidu not to trust the guy. She figures that the situation is a lot worse than he's putting on, but he won't tell her, so she decided to ask you. Not wanting to undermine Vidu or try to hide how likely it is that you're all gonna die if you don't find Skavik, you tell the woman to trust her own instincts before you head off to see Vidu. The large man is eating a very expensive meal, mainly because any meal could be his last since he hadn't gotten Rogan's guns back. He does feel a little better though since Reki called and told him that he gave you a way into the Separatist hideout. The whole secret passage thing finally solved the mystery of how Reki could steal from the place without getting caught for so long. But secret passages on the island won't help you get to the island. The Separatists blew up the only bridge to the place, so you have to swim to get there. It's unlikely that you'll just bump into Skavik on the island, but if you get the computer files, Vidu can find out where the man is. Corso wants to go with you so he can kill a few Separatists, but Vidu is sending him off to get the slicer kit so he can decrypt the files as soon as you get back. He does need it, but he's mainly trying to keep Corso from getting himself killed. The Separatists killed his whole family a few years ago, and now Corso wants to kill as many of them as he can, which is understandable. It's not exactly the smartest thing to do, but Vidu understands why he wants to do it. Before you and Vidu can debate the merits of revenge, Serena comes in to say that Rogan is calling for Vidu and he's not happy. Since the time for that man to send bounty hunters after the two of you is getting closer, Vidu sends you off to the Separatist base. It's not as hard as you expected to get into Reki's house or to find his map. However, the Separatist computer station is not exactly the easiest place to get into, since even though you're sneaking into the back, it doesn't stop you from dealing with a lot of guards. You get the information, but of course you get caught while fiddling with the computer and have to kill a guard and a robot. But you've already racked up more bodies than a serial killer, so a few more won't hurt. And once you're done, it's back to Vidu's base you go. When you get back, some of Vidu's men have decided that their boss isn't really going to be their boss for that much longer. And once he's gone, Serena's status as the favorite will be gone too. So they think it'll be a good idea for her to start making some new friends by doing some less than sanitary favors for them. Fortunately for her, you showed up and have no problem playing the role of executioner. She's extremely happy that you would defend her like that, but the men weren't wrong. Rogan is gonna kill Vidu if you don't find those weapons, which means you don't have time to play around. Word of the gunfight reached Vidu since it happened downstairs, and while he gets why you did what you did and he's happy that you helped Serena, sometimes shooting people is not the best solution. But that's still not as important as the information you brought back. With Corso's slicer kit, Vidu will be able to decrypt the information, but it won't happen instantly, so while he works on the decryption, he has a job for you that may keep Rogan from trying to kill you for a little longer. There's a special chemical in the nearby village that is extremely explosive, which makes it hard to transport, but it's worth a lot of money to the Republic since they can use it to blow up a lot of Separatists. So if you go and grab some for Rogan, it may make him give you more time with the blasters. There's an insane scientist who started to use the stuff to make artillery shells more potent, but if you trip and fall while you're carrying it, you'll explode. However, if you don't, you'll make a lot of money too. Since money is more important than life to a smuggler, you head off to track down the scientist and his explosive chemicals. The man is just as unstable as his chemicals, which makes sense when you think about the stuff that he works with. But no one would expect him to be the go fishing in the middle of a war zone type of crazy. But while he's nuttier than squirrel crap, he does have what you need, and you take it to Vidu, who has a container that should keep the stuff from going boom, at least before it's supposed to. While you were out, they cracked the Separatist code and they found Skavik, and he still has your ship. He's taking the weapons to the Separatist base, which is inside of a volcano, because why not? He's delivering the weapons to a guy named Derek, who's known for being extremely violent, so you need to get there before he gets more stuff to shoot at you with. The whole mission would be hard to accomplish alone, so Vidu's sending Corso with you. He wants to kill Skavik for taking his gun anyway, so he's definitely down for a fight. So the two of you head off to finally get your ship back. There are a lot of people between you and Derek, which means you get to fire off a lot of blaster bolts. When you get to the man, he's obviously not happy that you've been putting down so many of his men, and he's not willing to cooperate with you. He tries to kill you and ends up dead, but not all of his people are willing to die for nothing, and one of them is willing to talk to you if you let him live. That's a fair trade to you, not so much for Corso, who wants to kill any separatist he finds. But this particular guy, a dude named Morant, hasn't even been a part of the group for a year, so he definitely didn't have anything to do with Corso's family's death. Skavik's been gone for hours. He had showed up a while ago to drop off the guns, but he was really there to steal an old droid. The thing had been in Derek's family for years, but it wasn't anything special as far as Morant can see. But it was obviously important to Skavik, so he shot his way back to your ship and flew off with that and the guns. Morant doesn't know where he went, but he figures Serena would know since she's Skavik's girlfriend. That is not something you or Corso expected to hear, but apparently the two of them have known each other for a very long time and they've both been scamming Vidu. She had even told the separatists that you and Corso were on the way there, so she likely knows where Skavik is headed. Even though you got the information you needed, Corso still wants to kill Morant, but since you gave him your word, you spare the guy and race back to Vidu's base. When you get there, the big man is dead. He saw Serena talking to the separatists, so she killed him. She's talking to Skavik on the HoloNet, telling him to come pick her up, but he's not gonna do that. It's always funny when people work with someone who double crosses other people and then they're surprised when they get turned on too. Unfortunately, that leaves Serena alone with you. She knows that you probably want to kill her for what she's done, but she has some information that she hopes will get you to let her live. For starters, Rogan's bounty hunters are on the way there, and it'll be a good idea to not be there when they show up. Skavik is going to Coruscant, so you can still catch him if you get moving fast. The Republic's reopened the spaceport since your escapades have hurt the Separatists enough to make them back off. Serena has a pass that will let you get on a shuttle, and she'll give it to you if you let her live. You take the pass, but you still shoot her, because only a fool would leave someone with Serena's passion for betrayal at your back. Corso didn't really agree with you shooting the woman, but that's not going to stop him from tagging along with you to finish the hunt for Skavik. So the two of you make your way to the spaceport, and you get there right when Rogan's bounty hunters show up. They came to bring you to Rogan, but of course that's something that wouldn't be good for your health, so you put the bounty hunters out of their misery and hop onto a shuttle for Coruscant, so you can hopefully track down Skavik and finally get your ship back. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Donate if you can, and I'll see you guys in the next one.